Chapter 208. Xiao Xiaochan and the others felt a tremor in their bodies, and then they woke up with a start. They were all at a loss and shocked. Han Fei even saw shock on their faces. He wondered if they had seen the terrifying attack on the steel too. It was too strong. For the first time, Han Fei felt that there was such a terrifying existence in this world. The rock-holding turtle said solemnly, "Leave now. This place will collapse in case you get hurt." Han Fei and the others got off the back of the rock-holding turtle, and the seawater began to shake again. Spiritual energy was gathering, and a certain tide seemed to be rising underwater, pushing Han Fei and the others out. Cracks appeared on the stone walls, as if they would collapse at any moment. Luo Xiaobai's face slightly changed. "It's an energy riot. Let's go." Zhang Xuanyu was dumbfounded. "Where should we go? This is a maze." Han Fei had already started running. "Let's go to Mr. Turtle. It's too lazy to find a way out. We can use it to block the danger." Everybody looked at Han Fei. What a smart young man. Everybody ran as fast as they could. Behind them, some of the stone walls were already falling apart. The poor stone spirit crabs that were pretending to be stones were crushed. Many of them were crushed to death before they knew what happened. On the stone spirit turtle's side, when they ran to it, it seemed to have fallen asleep again. Lu Renquang was shocked. "I fell asleep? Isn't this guy too careless?" Han Fei was about to go forward when Luo Xiaobai said, "Wait, spiritual energy is gathering here too." Everybody was stunned. That's right. The spiritual energy on the rock-holding turtle side was too intense, and this side was unremarkable. At this moment, spiritual energy was also surging and gathering on the stone spirit turtle side. A moment later, Han Fei saw sword grass branches falling above his head. He asked in surprise, "Master?" The seal was fading. "Although, Wenren, you couldn't come in for now, the sword grass branches had. Wenren, you said telepathically, 'Let's go.' The seal here is about to be broken. I'm afraid it's dangerous." When Wenren, you spoke, the stones on the stone spirit turtle were falling apart, and its body was covered in a layer of spiritual energy. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, "Is it making a breakthrough?" Bam! 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 The stone wall behind him had already begun to shatter on a large scale. Some had even directly exploded, and the spiritual qi was violently surging. From above, Wenren said, "Find a place to hide." "Who cares? Hurry up and hide under Mr. Turtle's shell." Just after everyone hid, the spiritual energy completely rioted. Han Fei, on the other hand, clasped his hands under the stone spirit turtle shell, and the demon purification pot on his wrist was flickering, crazily absorbing the turbulent spiritual energy that came out of nowhere. Not long after, an astonishing wave of water swept over. The water was completely turbid. Rocks were flying everywhere, and all kinds of bubbles, mud, bones, and pieces of the stone spirit crab were surging. Everyone held onto the stone spirit turtle tightly. Even so, the stone spirit turtle, as big as it was still slowly moving and sliding to the side. Boom! With an explosion, the five of them vomited blood almost at the same time. The sound was so loud that it almost deafened them. "Sai, what's wrong now? Why am I awake again?" "Mr. Turtle, the seal has been broken. You hold on and block for us," the stone spirit turtle said unhurriedly. "Oh, have you pulled out the rod?" Han Fei and the others were speechless. "Master, why do you still care about the rod at this time?" "Huh, how'd I make a breakthrough?" The stone spirit turtle was a little stunned, but Han Fei and the others were even more stunned. "Don't you know how you made a breakthrough? Don't you know how much spiritual energy has been poured into your stomach?" Zhang Xuanyu said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "Han Fei, cut the crap. Absorb quickly. The spiritual energy is in a frenzy. It's a good time for us to cultivate." Han Fei was stunned. "You still have time to cultivate in this situation?" Zhang Xuanyu nodded. "Absorb as much as I can. I feel that this moment is comparable to months of hard cultivation." Luo Xiaobai scolded, "Shut up and focus on absorbing spiritual energy and polishing your body." Han Fei thought to himself, "I have nothing to polish. If I want to temper my body, I'll probably be struck by lightning. I'd better absorb spiritual energy." About a quarter of an hour later, the surging spiritual energy gradually disappeared. When they opened their eyes again, there were no stone walls. They were all razed to the ground. The stone forest had completely become a pile of rocks. Xia Xiaochan pointed to the distance and said, "Look, is that a rock-holding turtle?" Everyone looked at it, only to see a golden spot. Because it was a little far away, they couldn't see it clearly, but it seemed a bit similar. In front of the golden light, a huge vortex appeared. Before they could observe it carefully, the rock-holding turtle seemed to have drilled into the vortex, and then nothing happened. The entire stone forest almost fell silent in an instant. Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment. What happened? They wandered in the maze for a long time, only to accidentally destroy the entire stone forest. At this moment, the stone spirit turtle said in a daze, "My home is gone." Han Fei sweated. "Mr. Turtle, I'll take you to find a new home." While Han Fei was talking, a figure appeared in front of them. Wenren exclaimed in surprise when she saw the stone spirit turtle. However, seeing that the five of them were all dragging the big turtle, it must be a docile creature. The stone spirit turtle asked, "Another human being?" Wenren asked, "What happened? What did you do?" Han Fei shrugged. "Huh. Well, teacher, we didn't do anything. We just promised to find a new home for Mr. Turtle in the 1,000 Miles Coral Forest." Wenren really wanted to beat them up. Is this how you find a home? He had wanted to grind their spirit, but now, in less than a day, they had destroyed the treacherous stone forest. More importantly, it was the first time that Wenren had seen a rock-holding turtle. She was amazed by the power of this turtle. She didn't know what Han Fei and the others had done to summon such a legendary creature. Wenren said, "Now is not the time to talk. The sea is already rioting. The waves are 1,000 meters high. I've put away the fishing boat for you. Since you're going to the 1,000 Miles Coral Forest, walk underwater." The stone spirit turtle flicked its tail at Han Fei. "Can you carry me on your back?" "Pooh." Han Fei was dumbfounded. "Sir, are you kidding me? How big are you? How big am I? Carry you on my back? Just how lazy are you?" Wenren's mouth was also twitching. The others looked at Han Fei sympathetically. "Why did you hook up with this turtle? Now you can carry it yourself. Nobody will help you." Han Fei said, "Sir, I'm just going to swim for a while, but I can't carry you on my back." The stone spirit turtle nodded. "You can." Han Fei shook his head. "I can't." As they talked, they suddenly saw the water arrow turtle swim past 1,000 meters away. When the turtle swam away, it glanced at them and then sped up. Han Fei said, "Sir, she's the girlfriend I found for you. Go chase her, everyone." The stone spirit turtle. The stone spirit turtle was tempted, but it was too lazy. The water arrow turtle swam away in the blink of an eye. It was too lazy to chase it. In the end, under Han Fei's trick, it swam unhurriedly to the 1,000 Miles Coral Forest. On the way, Wenren asked, "Where did you find this turtle? Why is it so lazy?" Everybody looked at Han Fei. Han Fei smiled awkwardly. "We can only come out thanks to Mr. Turtle. It's not a big problem to find a nest for Mr. Turtle." Wenren asked, "Is this a stone spirit turtle?" "A level 40 stone spirit turtle." "Forget it. Whatever. Let's go back to town after we go up." Immediately, they were unhappy. Han Fei said anxiously, "Teacher, we're going to the deep-sea jungle." Zhang Xuanyu echoed, "Yes, teacher, let's find a second contractual spiritual beast for Xiaobai." Liu Renquang didn't care. "I think it's good to go back." Xia Xiaochan glared at him. "Shut up," Luo Xiaobai suggested. "Why don't you go with us, teacher?" Wenren said, "Shut up, all of you. You've only been here for a few days. You've been making trouble for me. Did I ask you to come down to hunt for treasures?" Liu Renquang, Luo Xiaobai, you haven't even learned spiritual perception yet, and you're here to hunt for treasures with them? They are talented, but you don't. Don't go back. Some of you can, but some of you can't. Is it embarrassing? Luo Xiaobai blushed. For the first time in her life, she felt that she was left behind in cultivation. Luo Xiaobai said solemnly, "Teacher, I won't go into the sea until I master spiritual perception this time." When Rinyu asked, "Little fatty, what about you?" Lu Kwang looked around and said sullenly, "Then, so will I." Cell phone site. Chapter 209. Han Fei did find a place for the stone spirit turtle to sleep in a coral cave. He had planned to trick the stone spirit turtle into staying at the gate of the fire cloud cave. After all, it was a place where few people could reach even in thousands of years. However, the stone spirit turtle stopped swimming and sank when it heard that it was tens of thousands of kilometers away. In the end, after much persuasion, Han Fei tricked this guy to the coral reefs. The coral cave. Han Fei asked, "Master Turtle, are you sure you don't want to think about it? It's only 10,000 kilometers. If a strong master comes to this coral bush and you are caught, it's not a good thing to be their contractual spiritual beast." The stone spirit turtle lay on the ground, and a suction force appeared on its body. Pieces of coral, rocks, and seaweed fell on it. After a while, the stone spirit turtle turned into a large pile of coral. The stone spirit turtle said, "Human, go. I'm going to sleep." Han Fei was speechless. What a heartless girl. She took my kindness for granted. We've been through thick and thin together. Why did it suddenly abandon me? Zhang Xuanyu patted Han Fei's shoulder. "Fei, let's go. Let's sleep. It probably won't remember you when it wakes up." Xia Xiaochan sighed. If only most of the creatures in the sea were as lazy as this turtle, then we could catch them at will. Wenrenyu was speechless at the thoughts of these people. Dream on. The sea is a place where the strong prey on the weak. The stone spirit turtle is just a special case. They returned to the surface of the sea. However, at this moment, the sea was raging and the waves were surging. Even so, Han Fei and the others saw a lot of fishing boats. These fishing boats were setting off for the stone forest. Lu Kwang sighed. How stupid. I wonder how they would feel if they knew that we met a rock-holding turtle. Speaking of the rock-holding turtle, Wenren suddenly asked, "What did you see on the stone tablet?" The rock-holding turtle said that it gave you an opportunity. Did you get it? Luo Xiaobai was excited. I saw a towering tree in the middle of the sea, hundreds of thousands of meters high, with branches and leaves covering hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Everyone was stunned. Was there such a big tree? Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Different? He clearly saw someone use a stick to pierce through the raging waves, but Little White saw a tree. Xia Xiaochan said, "I saw a fish 10,000 meters long, swimming among the clouds. It was very lonely." Wenren raised her eyebrows. Is this the so-called opportunity? She naturally believed what Luo Xiaobai and Xia Xiaochan said. However, it was too exaggerated for them to describe it. How could there be a tree that could reach tens of thousands of feet into the sky? How could there be a fish that was tens of thousands of feet long? Lu Kwang looked at them in shock. Is it really that amazing? But what I saw was a saber technique. I can't describe it. It's just a knife. It floated in front of me and then disappeared. Zhang Xuanyu looked at everyone blankly. I didn't see those things. I felt like I had entered a sea and was being battered by the waves again and again. I almost had a mental breakdown. Lu Kwang snorted. Then you're really miserable. At least the knives I see won't stab me. Everybody looked at Han Fei, and Han Fei scratched his head. I saw a man holding a stick and piercing through the waves. Han Fei felt that that picture couldn't be described in words. Was it really as simple as piercing through the waves with a stick? That stick penetrated the sky and the earth, and even the sea caved in. That kind of feeling was really mysterious and indescribable. Of course, Han Fei didn't intend to tell them about the God-scaring painting. After all, the rock-holding turtle had always been a legend. Then this painting must have never appeared in the world. Wenren was dumbfounded. Was it really as exaggerated as they made it out to be? A tree tens of thousands of feet tall, a fish tens of thousands of feet tall, and finally a man who pierced through the waves with a stick? Is this bullsh**? Wenren said solemnly, no matter what opportunities you got from the rock-holding turtle, don't tell others. You should understand the saying, an innocent man will get into trouble because of his wealth. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Got it, teacher. Wenren said, when the rock-holding turtle appeared, spiritual energy gathered. Many people thought that there was a rare treasure there. You just stay here. When Xiao Bai and Lu Rinquang learn spiritual perception, the experience will end. Everybody agreed. Wenren Yu left. She hated teaching students, especially those who liked to make trouble. After Wenren Yu left, they all stared at each other. Lu Rinquang said, "Well, do you want to practice? Let's exchange our experiences. Go away. It's stormy here." 3 days later, countless treasure hunters returned empty-handed, but not everyone returned empty-handed. Some bold ones dived to the bottom of the sea, only to find that the stone forest was gone. As soon as the news came out, everyone was shocked. Their first reaction was not to publicize it, but to search for treasures in the ruins of the stone forest. As a result, some people caught some stone spirit crabs, some pried some stones, and some found some broken weapons from the ruins. Anyway, no matter how broken they were taken out from the ruins of the stone forest. If they sold them, they might be able to make some money. Perhaps the disappearance of the stone forest was leaked, and various versions of rumors began to spread. Therefore, most of the great fishing masters of the entire Blue Sea town were dispatched, hundreds of thousands of people. As a result, the level 2 fishery instantly became lively. At this moment, Han Fei and the others were sitting on the deck and eating hot pot. Luo Xiaobai said, "I seem to have some ideas, but I may need to use my vines." I used the hook as if it were my vines. Then I seem to feel the space between the fish hooks, but still a bit vague. Xia Xiaochan wondered, "Can't you control the seaweed? That's also vision." Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "This is different. I can control 100 meters or 1,000 meters, but not 100 or 1,000 kilometers, so it's just speculation." Han Fei suggested, "Then can you separate your vines? For example, if there's a vine hanging on the fishing hook, can you feel it?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head again. "I can, but I can't. No, I have to go back to fishing." Luo Xiaobai was eager to learn spiritual perception. Lu Rinquang, however, mumbled with his mouth full of grease, "I also saw a little vague, but I didn't practice it. When I was fishing, I was thinking about the knife I saw on the giant monument, and then I saw it." Everyone looked at Lu Rinquang. They had always felt that the picture they saw was useless. Maybe there really was such a magical life in the infinite ocean, but it was too far away from them. They just happened to see it. Lu Rinquang swallowed a piece of squid meat and said, "I always thought about the knife, and then I felt that it was very easy to control the fishing rod. Sometimes I feel that throwing the hook is like throwing that knife. Why don't you try throwing a tree?" Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. What you saw was a knife, but what Xiaobai saw was a towering tree. "Can you throw that thing away?" Han Fei pulled Zhang Xuanyu. Hey, you can't throw it away, but you can think about it. Didn't you hear Lu Rinquang say that you can see it when you think about it?" Luo Xiaobai's eyes lit up. By the way, was the scene on the giant monument really meaningless? Not necessarily. If it was meaningless, then what kind of opportunity was it? In fact, not only Lu Rinquang, but also Han Fei was thinking about it. On this day, he was not in the mood to fish. He was thinking about the shocking blow and the God-scaring painting. Just thinking about it often made him feel refreshed. At this moment, Han Fei saw 6 fishing boats in the sky, pulling a big turtle flying by. The squid meat in Lu Rinquang's mouth fell out, and he said stupidly, "Isn't that Master Turtle?" Zhang Xuanyu's eyes widened. "Really? Has Master Turtle been found?" Xia Xiaochan said anxiously, "That's too much. Master Turtle just wants to take a nap, but these people don't even let go of an old turtle." Han Fei said angrily, "Damn it, we can't let them take it away. If they take it away, Master Turtle will be dead. Take off, chase." Cell phone website. Chapter 210. The 5 of them, including Luo Xiaobai, were furious. The stone spirit turtle was the cutest turtle they had ever seen, and it had helped them. They couldn't allow it to be captured as a contractual spiritual beast. In the sky, a group of people was shouting. Someone laughed. "We're rich. A stone spirit turtle that has broken through the bottleneck of level 40. If we sell it, we'll have enough food for the rest of our lives." Someone sighed. "Fortunately, it hasn't woken up yet. Otherwise, we might not have been able to catch it." Someone said disdainfully, "There are more than a dozen of us. Why should we be afraid of a stone spirit turtle? Stop. Guys in the sky, let go of the turtle. Han Fei stood on the deck, furious. Huh? Is there a fishing boat chasing us? Huh? Are these kids tired of living? How dare they chase us? Don't be careless. A kid who can come to the level 2 fishery is probably not simple. Who cares? Who knows if he's dead? Old Yang, go with him. Our 5 fishing boats can hold him. The stone spirit turtle was very heavy. When one fishing boat broke away, the other 5 fishing boats suddenly sank. However, they still managed to hold the weight of the stone spirit turtle. Where did this kid come from? Are you tired of living? Just at the moment when the other fishing boat approached, vines danced in the air and directly pulled the other fishing boat. Lu Renquang patted his armor box and drew out his knives and swords. Xia Xiaochan flickered and appeared on the other party's fishing boat. Damn, the 3 people on the other fishing boat were shocked. What kind of weird ability was this? Xia Xiaochan was ruthless, which everyone knew. But these people didn't know it. One of the middle-aged men raised his knife to block, but in an instant, Xia Xiaochan went around to his side, cut his spiritual energy protective cover, and then stabbed deeply into his abdomen. This man didn't even have time to fuse with his spiritual beast before he was crippled. The other 2 were dumbfounded. So powerful? However, before they had time to react, the torrents of knives and sword arrived. With the double attack of Xia Xiaochan, the other party only had time to shout, "Fuse!" And then his spiritual energy protective cover was shattered by the sword and saber, and he was instantly covered with wounds. His spiritual beast didn't play any role at all. Their fishing boats crashed, and Xia Xiaochan flashed back to the fishing boat. Lu Renquang retreated. The battle had ended in less than 3 breaths of time. Above, those people were dumbfounded. Someone snapped out of his panic. "Who are you?" "We're from the Black River Chamber of Commerce in the Blue Sea Town." Luo Xiaobai said indifferently, "There are 3 chambers of commerce in the Blue Sea Town. The Linglong Tower, the colorful Closed Chamber of Commerce, and the Black River Chamber of Commerce. These people are great fishing masters recruited by the Chambers of Commerce to seize resources from the sea for these Chambers of Commerce." Zhang Xuanyu said disdainfully, "Who cares what Chamber of Commerce they are? They can't take me away." Han Fei shouted at them, "Release the stone spirit turtle, and I'll spare your lives." The faces of the people on the other side were extremely ugly. These youngsters were too strong. They were guessing which academy the prodigy was from. However, regardless of which academy he was from, this was a stone spirit tortoise. Its value was immeasurable. How could they give it up so easily? Seeing that Han Fei and the others had already caught up, the faces of the people of the Black River Chamber of Commerce changed drastically. The other side shouted, "Don't make a mistake. We found this stone spirit turtle first. If you rob us, you'll rob the Black River Chamber of Commerce." Han Fei raised his finger. "I'll give you 2 seconds to think about it. Let it go or not." The other side looked pale and hesitated. Suddenly, only one person stayed on the other fishing boats to control the fishing boat, and the others all jumped onto one boat. They decided to fight, so they couldn't let go of the stone spirit turtle. Fuse. For a time, all kinds of phantoms appeared. Bony spur fish, ironhead fish, mysterious armored tortoise, lightning crab. A total of 12 people fused with their spiritual beasts. Someone on the other side sneered, "Boy, how dare you challenge us with just 5 people? Since you've ruined our plan today, you don't have to go back." Han Fei glanced at Xia Xiaochan. "Shall we fight?" Xia Xiaochan flashed instantly, and the great fishing masters on the other fishing boats looked around. However, they didn't find anyone. But in the next moment, they only heard a crack, and the iron chain holding the stone spirit turtle broke. The other 4 fishing boats struggled to hold on and were on the verge of collapsing. Crack! Another chain broke. Standing on the turtle's shell, Xia Xiaochan disappeared again and appeared on a fishing boat with only one person on it. The person who controlled the fishing boat was stabbed in the abdomen and fell straight into the sea. And the other 3 fishing boats finally couldn't hold the stone spirit turtle and began to fall together with the turtle. Han Fei shouted, "Zhang Xuan, you crash. Okay. I haven't fought with anyone for a long time. Hey, In the eyes of these great fishing masters, Han Fei and the others were crazy. If they fell into the sea from such a high height, even great fishing masters would be injured. If they were besieged by the fish of the level 2 fishery, they would be seriously injured. Stop, stop! The other side shouted repeatedly, but Han Fei didn't mean to stop at all. He immediately shouted again, fight! Swish, swish, swish! Fishing hooks fell on Han Fei's fishing boat one after another, and the blue sea wandering dragon spun around and cut all the fishing lines. Han Fei stepped on the bow of the boat and said arrogantly, "Don't play fancy tricks. It's useless. Now we're robbing this stone spirit turtle." When the two fishing boats were only dozens of meters away from each other, both sides launched attacks. Han Fei had just shot out 7 chains, Luren Quang had just put down his armor box, and Luo Xiaobai's vines were about to be launched when the other party's fishing boat shook. Xiao Xiaochan had already boarded the boat, stabbed the pilot on the boat, and then destroyed the other party's fishing boat with a heavy stab. Before Han Fei and the others attacked, these people fell straight into the sea. Someone wanted to jump on a Han Fei's fishing boat, but was blocked by Han Fei with a knife. Xiao Xiaochan casually appeared behind them. "Are you stupid? Do you have to fight a dozen people head-on? Why don't you just let them fall?" "Everyone," Lu Rinquang muttered. "Isn't this a bit too insidious?" Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. "Haven't you found that Xia Xiaochan is more terrifying than a dozen great fishing masters?" Xia Xiaochan turned her head and stared at Zhang Xuanyu. "What did you say?" "No, nothing. I said that you're cute. I have never seen a girl as beautiful and powerful as you." Han Fei slapped his thigh. "Yes. When did I become so fond of fighting? This is not a good habit. I have to change it." Han Fei still remembered that he wanted to develop his skills in hidden weapons a little while ago. However, after being taught a lesson by Jiang Qin, he almost forgot about it. Xiao Xiaochan's method was the right way to win without bloodshed. Zhang Xuanyu controlled the fishing boat to chase down and quickly caught up with the 3 teetering fishing boats. Han Fei shouted at the 3 people on the boat, "Hurry up and land. Do you need my help?" The faces of the operators on the 3 fishing boats turned green. Just now they saw a dozen people fall from the sky with their own eyes. Fortunately, this place was not high, and they were all great fishing masters, so they wouldn't fall to their deaths. But these were a dozen great fishing masters. Couldn't they beat a few kids? The 3 people were angry, but dared not say anything. In the blink of an eye, they became the weaker party. What could they do? Of course, land quickly and run away. Han Fei and the others were not in a hurry. At this moment, Han Fei was knocking the turtle shell with a blue sea wandering dragon dagger. Clang, 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 like knocking a bell. Han Fei knocked it for a full 2 minutes before he finally woke it up. "Who is it? I'm going to sleep." The great fishing masters on the 3 fishing boats were all stunned. What did this mean? How could this turtle talk? Luren Quang smacked his lips. "I'm afraid Mr. Turtle doesn't even know that he has been flying in the sky." Han Fei complained helplessly. "Mr. Turtle, you were almost taken away. Look at where you are now." The stone spirit turtle poked its head out and was anxious. "Where's the water? Where's the coral?" Han Fei sweated. "Mr. Turtle, you almost became someone's contractual spiritual beast. Do you know that?" Cell phone website. Chapter 211. Han Fei suspected that if it weren't for the seal of the stone forest, this stone spirit turtle would have become someone else's contractual spiritual beast. At this moment, when it found itself hanging in the air, it was only slightly surprised and even asked feebly, "Can I sleep if I become someone else's contractual spiritual beast?" Han Fei said gloomily, "Of course not. They'll drag you out to fight every few days. Are you scared?" The stone spirit turtle shrugged. "Then forget it. I'd better not become someone else's spiritual beast." Xiao Xiaochan couldn't bear it anymore. "Big Turtle, you're so stupid. If you're caught, you won't be able to sleep anymore. So, you should listen to Han Fei and find a hidden place to sleep." The stone spirit turtle felt wronged. "Where can I hide? It's all because of him that I slept so well." Han Fei pointed at himself with his mouth open. "So I'm the bad guy now?" Han Fei said gloomily. "Mr. Turtle, be reasonable. You see, I saved you this time. You won't be so lucky when we leave in a few days. Bim. At this moment, several fishing boats fell into the sea together. When there was water, the stone spirit turtle shook its body and overturned a fishing boat, probably because it exerted too much strength. The other two fishing boats didn't overturn, but they drew a semicircle on the sea. The two people on the boat had no time to care about anything else. They cut off the chains and ran away immediately. They were great fishing masters, but the stone spirit turtle was above level 40 after all. They couldn't do anything to it. As for the boat that fell from the sky, it was more than half damaged. There were a dozen people on it, but some of them fell into the water and didn't come back up. At this moment, this group of people was controlling the broken boat and rushing at Han Fei and the others. Little fishes, you will all stay here today. Han Fei said, Mr. Turtle, look, these are the people who caught you. If I were you, I would have already lost my temper and knocked them over. However, the stone spirit turtle said lazily, I'm tired. I don't want to move. Han Fei was speechless. You coward. I saved you for nothing. I can't even count on you to fight. Luo Xiaobai sighed. Forget it. Fighting is also part of the experience. In the future, we might encounter a situation like today's. Let's give it a try first. On the other side, Zhang Xuanyu, who was originally quite quiet, raised his stick at this moment, and a huge wave of tens of meters was set off. He laughed loudly. Fei Fei, today I'll show you the 7-layered waves in Furious Sea. At this moment, Zhang Xuanyu's aura was rising, and the layers of waves behind him pushed him forward. Luo Xiaobai commanded, Let's all take action. With that, vines popped out of the water and easily wrapped around the other party's boat. Pay attention. Kill that manipulator first. Someone on the other side roared. At the same time, at least 4 people left the fishing boat. Someone jumped into the water, and when he jumped out again, he stabbed a spear at Luo Xiaobai. Luren Kuang patted his armor box and chuckled. The spiritual beast of a strip fish is just a dish. After that, a long saber flew out of the armor box and turned into a saber shadow that was 7 to 8 meters long. Luren Kuang said, Watch carefully, this is my new combat skill. I'm going to call it Wild Slash. Han Fei smacked his lips. It's terrible to be uneducated. The name is so vulgar that it gives me goosebumps. As he spoke, Han Fei stepped out of the boat, stepped into the air, and 3 blue sea wandering dragon daggers burst out beside him. The purple bamboo rod had been destroyed, but the fishing rod was not. Han Fei held the rod in one hand, and the hook was thrown out like a swimming snake. 3 people attacked from the left and were blocked by Han Fei alone. One of them even tried to resist the blue sea wandering dragon daggers and approached Han Fei directly. But he was careless. At the moment when the blue sea wandering dragon daggers appeared in front of him, the armor shield and spiritual energy protective cover on the man's body were directly pierced, and his chest was pierced by the daggers. Seeing this scene, the other 2 hurriedly retreated. But Han Fei's fishing rod had already arrived and hooked one person's feet. Han Fei approached him in 2 or 3 steps, moved his body in the air, and easily avoided the dozens of bone spurs shot out by the other party. Puff! Stabbing the dagger into the man's chest, Han Fei grinned grimly. A spiritual beast like the bone spur fish may be of some use to you. You don't deserve to be a hidden weapon. Then Han Fei pulled out the dagger and let the man fall into the water. As for the other person, he was already horrified. Why are these teenagers so strong? On the other side, Xia Xiaochan, who had the flash skill, attacked even more easily. With a flash, she directly killed the last great fishing master. At this time, Zhang Xuanyu had just approached the fishing boat. His eyes flashed, and he blasted out a soul attack. One of the people on the boat was stunned. BM, the man was knocked flying, vomiting blood wildly. If it weren't for the 2 great fishing masters beside him, he would have died. When Zhang Xuanyu stepped on the waves again, Luo Xiaobai's vines had already woven a large vine tens of meters long. Smack! Smack! The vines were like whips, smashing down crazily. The deck of the fishing boat was broken, and the 3 of them barely stopped it. But Zhang Xuanyu's 7-layered rod in Furious Sea followed. That wasn't all. Xiao Xiaochan sneaked behind a man at some point and stabbed him with a white knife, and then came out with a red knife. Han Fei, who was rushing over, happened to see this scene and broke into a cold sweat. Fortunately, he was strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how many times he would have been stabbed by this girl. The group of great fishing masters had never seen such a scene before. Someone shouted in shock. Perfect combination. 7-layered waves in furious sea. They are the thug legend. As soon as this person finished shouting, Lu Rinquang's torrents of knives and swords arrived. For a time, there were giant vines, swords, waves, and people stabbing each other. These people had been through a lot and tried to resist, but as soon as they came into contact with them, they were crushed in an instant. Crack! BM! The fishing boat disintegrated. In just a few minutes, this group of more than a dozen people was directly crushed. The 2 fishing boats that escaped were planning to reinforce them. At this moment, they just ran away wildly. How could they still fight? This was the thug legend, who had a 100-game winning streak in the Blue Sea Arena and was in the top 100 of the 3 academies. Most of them were junior great fishing masters. It would be strange if they could defeat him. Luo Xiaobai shouted, "Xiaochan, don't kill them." Xiao Xiaochan appeared, waved the dagger in her hand twice, and snorted. "I'm not interested in killing junior great fishing masters. I just want to let them know that they are not strong because they have more people." Seeing that there was no space for him to attack, Han Fei returned to the fishing boat, lay on the bow, and looked at the stone spirit turtle. "Master Turtle, let's take you to find a place to sleep. Do you want to come with us?" The stone spirit turtle asked, "Is it far?" "If it's far," Han Fei said bluntly. "Do you want to be caught and sent to heaven? At that time, you'll be dragged out to fight every other day. That's much more tiring than swimming tens of thousands of miles." The stone spirit turtle seemed to think for a while, and finally said weakly, "Okay then, human, can you take me with you?" Han Fei, everyone, in the end, Han Fei compromised. Locking it with a chain, they set off for the Fire Cloud Cave. As soon as Han Fei and the others left, the people of the Black River Chamber of Commerce immediately gathered. Everybody climbed onto the last 2 fishing boats, relieved to have survived the disaster. 6 are dead. How can we explain this to them? Someone muttered. How can we explain this to them? Just say that we encountered the thug legend. It's good enough that we can go back alive. They are not ordinary children. They are the seeds of the 4th Academy. Let the Chamber of Commerce find a solution. At the entrance of the Fire Cloud Cave, now there were no treasures inside. Although there was an earth fire, no one had seen it. But the cave outside the door was indeed very beautiful, with small fish and shrimps, corals, and shellfish. It was colorful and very beautiful. Han Fei said, "Master Turtle, you can sleep here. You helped us once, and we'll pay you back. I don't owe you anything." The stone spirit turtle directly lay on the ground. "I'm exhausted. I'm so sleepy. You can go now. I'm going to sleep." Xiao Xiaochan said angrily, "You big turtle, why don't you appreciate our help? If it weren't for us, you would have become a contractual spiritual beast. Why don't you thank us?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Xiaochan," Xiao Xiaochan said angrily, "Humph, that's right." The stone spirit turtle was so sleepy that it almost squinted its eyes. Maybe it felt a little embarrassed. So it shook its body, and a black stone fell from the crack of its shell. "And can I give this to you?" Xiao Xiaochan was taken aback. "What is this? A piece of stone?" The stone spirit turtle shrugged. "I don't know. Who stuffed it in my shell when I was a child? Later, he didn't come to take it. This is the only thing someone gave me. I can only give this to you." Han Fei stepped forward and patted the turtle shell. "Okay, Master Turtle, go to sleep. Xiaochan is just teasing you." As he said, Han Fei went forward to pick up the stone. "Did someone give it to you?" "I don't think so." Cell phone website. Chapter 2:12. The stone spirit turtle soon fell asleep. Han Fei and the others were used to it. The stupidest creatures they had ever met were the stone spirit crab and the stone spirit turtle, both of which were called stone spirits. One was deceiving itself, and the other was sleeping all day long. On the fishing boat, Xiao Xiaochan pried, opened the stone with a dagger, and found that there was a small box inside. Lu Rinquang said in surprise, "Did we find a treasure?" Zhang Xuanyu wondered. I don't think so. Didn't Master Turtle say that someone stuffed it into its shell when it was a child? How many years ago was it when it was a child? At least 1,000 years ago. Luo Xiaobai nodded. At that time, the stone spirit turtle was still very weak. It shouldn't be a treasure. Han Fei said, open it and you'll know. Crack. As soon as Han Fei said so, Xia Xiaochan opened the box, and there was a fish skin map inside. Immediately, Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu pushed Lu Renkuang away and said in unison, a treasure map? Lu Renkuang was very innocent. Why did he become classmates with these two guys? Are they the kind of guys who want treasures more than their lives? I can't afford to offend them. Xia Xiaochan was also stunned and spread out the map. Everyone was confused. Where is this? Xia Xiaochan wondered. This is not the level 2 fishery, is it? It doesn't even have the dangerous places of the level 2 fishery. Luo Xiaobai nodded. I don't think so. Otherwise, it should at least mark the floating islands. Han Fei agreed. Yes, there are no floating islands, which means that this is not the sea area of the floating islands at all. Since it is not the sea area of the floating islands, it is not the level 2 fishery, let alone the level 1 fishery. Zhang Xuanyu and Han Fei looked at each other again. The level 3 fishery? Just when the two of them were excited, a cold voice came from behind. It is not the level 3 fishery. Teacher? Everyone turned around and saw that Wenren was standing on the deck without them knowing, giving them a fright. Han Fei sweated. It seemed that Xia Xiaochan was not the only one who appeared and disappeared mysteriously. Why do these people like to eavesdrop? Wenren confirmed again, it is not the level 3 fishery. Looking at this fish skin map, the area seems not large. Based on a mountain on the map, the whole map seems to be less than 1,000 kilometers, and it should be smaller than ordinary fisheries. Zhang Xuanyu asked, Teacher, can we find it? Wenren thought for a moment. You guys look for it yourselves. Xia Xiaochan asked, then why did you come down? Wenren was silent for a while. I'm curious. With that, Wenren flew away with a whoosh. After that, a voice was left in the void. You should practice fishing more. Don't think about treasures all day. There are treasures everywhere. One day, you will get them all. It's just that you don't have the ability to take them now. Everyone, because no one knew where the treasure map was drawn, everyone's interest was immediately dampened. Xia Xiaochan threw the box to Han Fei. Put it in your sea-swallowing seashell. Han Fei was lost for words. Have I become a butler now? Everything is thrown to me. Lu Renkuang laughed. You're the only one with a sea-swallowing seashell. Why don't you get one for each of us? Haha, it's good to leave it here. It's safe. In the next few days, everyone was really just fishing. However, they didn't use bait to fish. To put it more bluntly, they were using skills to catch fish. Han Fei only persisted for one day before he lay on the deck and fell asleep, which made Lu Renkuang jealous. In fact, Han Fei was studying the God-scaring painting. This painting was imprinted in his mind, extremely clear. Although Han Fei didn't know what this painting was used for, he knew it must be extraordinary from the 100 million points of spiritual energy required to deduce it. This was on the same level as the indestructible body. It was definitely not inferior. Nearly a month later, Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renkuang achieved spiritual perception one after another. And Han Fei, except for when he ate, slept for a whole month. At this moment, a hot pot had been set up on the boat. Lu Renkuang and the other three were looking at Han Fei and discussing. Lu Renkuang asked, has he been infected by Master Turtle? During this period of time, he has been eating and sleeping. I think it's too much. If he goes on like this, he will get fat again. Zhang Xuanyu guessed. He must be thinking about that. I've been thinking about it recently, and I feel that the range of my perception has increased a bit. It's already 1 meter. Xia Xiaochan nodded. Me too. I think it's enough as long as I think about that picture. Every time I see that big fish, I feel it's very magical. I still feel so after seeing it countless times. Luo Xiaobai frowned. Is it enough just to think about it? My perception range hasn't exceeded 2 feet yet. Lu Renkuang nodded. Me neither. Han Fei was lost in thought at this moment. More than 20 days ago, when he began to sleep, it was because he discovered one thing. Every time he closed his eyes to think about the God-scaring painting, he would see it very clearly. But every time he opened his eyes and was not in a state of meditation, he could not remember what the God-scaring painting looked like. In the past month, he had been trying to memorize this painting, but so far he hadn't succeeded. Therefore, he used many methods, such as copying, line dismantling, spiritual energy drawing. He tried many methods, but none of them worked. In the end, he found that this God-scaring painting seemed to be disassembled. At first, he disassembled it into 100 pieces and tried for 5 days, but he couldn't even remember one piece. So he disassembled the God-scaring painting into 1,000 pieces, and it took him so long to remember one piece. Don't underestimate this piece of the God-scaring painting. When Han Fei cast the hook, the range of his spiritual perception changed from 5 meters to 50 meters. This breakthrough directly stunned him. It was just a small piece of the picture, but his perception range had been expanded by 10 times. That was not all. Not only could he sense underwater, but he could also sense his surroundings. For example, at this moment, Han Fei could see these 4 guys staring at him, Luren Kuang occasionally glancing at the hot pot, Luo Xiaobai frowning at him, Zhang Xuanyu bragging, and Xia Xiaochan in a daze. Swish! Han Fei suddenly sat up, startling the 4 of them. Zhang Xuanyu said worriedly, Fei, are you okay? Something's wrong with you recently. Han Fei twisted his head, turned over, and sat in front of the hot pot. What's wrong? Do you feel the pressure because I've become thinner? Zhang Xuanyu sneered. Pressure? How can I feel pressure? Are you more handsome than me? Or are you taller than me? Han Fei's face darkened. Do you want to fight? Han Fei took the lead to pick up a piece of fish, put it in his mouth, and said as if nothing had happened, Let me tell you something. Spend more time thinking about the picture you saw on the giant monument and analyze every detail of it. Luo Xiaobai immediately asked, Can it improve your perception? Han Fei nodded. Yes. Xia Xiaochan asked, How much did you improve? While eating the fish, Han Fei grabbed the fishing rod and threw it into the sea. About 10 meters. His poo. Cough, cough. Luren Kuang spat out the fish in his mouth and looked at Han Fei in shock. How much? Not only Luren Kuang, but everyone was stunned. They were still a few feet away, at most half a meter away, but Han Fei suddenly jumped 10 meters away, which really shocked them. Xia Xiaochan stared at Han Fei. Are you sure? Han Fei smiled awkwardly, wondering if he would be beaten to death if he said 50 meters. Han Fei said, Let's eat. Let's talk while eating. Zhang Xuanyu screamed. That's unreasonable. Are you a devil? Xia Xiaochan muttered. Why am I only 3 meters? No, I have to sleep tomorrow too. Luren Kuang blinked his eyes. I don't want to talk to you too. That's too much. Han Fei chuckled. By the way, we have actually all learned spiritual perception. The size of the range is just a matter of time. Well, what do you think about the undersea jungle? Luren Kuang shrugged. Not interested. I want to sleep after dinner. Luo Xiaobai said leisurely, Han Fei, it's your turn to watch the night. Han Fei frowned. You want me to watch the night? Hee hee. Cell phone website. Chapter 213. At night, the sea was not very stormy, but the waves rolled as usual and the ups and downs were normal. For people who had lived at sea for a long time, it was no different from a peaceful land. Han Fei was fishing alone with a fishing rod, and the other 4 were all sleeping at the moment, frightened by Han Fei's 10 meters. After dinner, they couldn't wait to study the pictures they saw on the giant monument. Han Fei was very bored. He caught a one-line fish, absorbed its spiritual energy, and threw it back into the sea. He caught a squid, absorbed its spiritual energy, and threw it into the sea too. He didn't know how many times he had caught and thrown it. Should I drive the fishing boat to the deep-sea jungle first? Han Fei frowned. If these guys refused to go, he would take them there secretly. When they arrived, he would have it go down. Han Fei controlled the fishing boat, flew into the air, and went straight to the waters of the deep-sea jungle. Behind him, Wenrinyu was furious. This kid caused trouble every day. After a month of peace, he was going to cause trouble again. However, Wenrinyu was also puzzled. Were the pictures Han Fei and the others saw real? Spiritual perception of 10 meters in a month? This speed was terrifying. At first, she went to that place after becoming a dangling fisher and quickly mastered this ability. But now, these teenagers had mastered it in just 2 months. Especially Han Fei and Xia Xiaochand. The speed of these two was so fast that she was shocked. The area of the deep-sea jungle was not as large as the coral reefs, only 300 kilometers. As soon as Han Fei landed, he saw large tracts of seaweed floating on the sea, and some ordinary fish entangled by the seaweed and died. Because there was a lot of seaweed here, the layer of seaweed on the sea was covered with sea melon seeds. In addition to sea melon seeds, there were also all kinds of snails crawling on it. Large conches were not uncommon, and some small crabs the size of a palm were hiding in the seaweed. Han Fei poked at them with his fishing rod and found that the seaweed turned out to have vines, which grew from underwater. The grass vines were thick and thin. The thin ones were mostly sea melon seeds, and the thick ones were many oysters, hermit crabs, and large conches. The others might know where Han Fei drove the fishing boat to, but no one got up. Anyway, Han Fei was on night duty. Where else was more important than cultivation? Han Fei took out his fishing rod, found a relatively good place in the seaweed, and cast the hook down. Han Fei didn't know what to say at this moment. The water was filled with water vines with intertwined roots. He had no choice but to use the slithering snake method to avoid the vines one by one. The difficulty of fishing had increased by more than 10 times. Soon, the hook was 300 meters deep, and Han Fei vaguely saw the jungle at the bottom of the sea. Although it was called a jungle, it wasn't really a jungle. It wasn't just tall trees, but many crooked, strange-looking giant trees. Some of these trees were bare, while others were more like willow trees, full of tender branches. Han Fei went deeper and suddenly exclaimed, "There are fish living on the trees?" Han Fei was curious. He saw some fish hanging on the trunk and some on the branches. At the same time, these fish also rushed out from time to eat some plankton. Amazing, let's catch one. The fishing hook flashed in an instant and directly entangled a small fish that was swimming out to eat the floating fish. It was not big, only about a foot long. However, at the moment when the fish was hooked, Han Fei retracted the rod, as usual, and didn't pull it back. Then his face changed. Nearby, countless branches rushed towards the fishing hook. When he took a closer look, Han Fei was shocked. It turned out that these fish were really growing on the trees. Their bodies were actually connected to the branches. Han Fei swallowed. Fish growing on the trees? That's really amazing. It's like planting fish in the ground, a bit absurd. Han Fei pulled hard, and spiritual energy burst out from the hook, instantly cutting off the branch connected to this fish. After cutting it off, Han Fei didn't pull the hook immediately, but controlled the fishing rod to swim in the water. He wanted to see what those branches would do. However, just as Han Fei swayed and dodged, the fish hanging on the trees all stuck out their tongues. This was beyond Han Fei's understanding again. You are fish, not frogs. Even frogs' tongues aren't so long. Han Fei hurriedly dodged. Those tongues were dozens of meters long, which made Han Fei feel disgusted. Are your stomachs full of tongues? At this time, Han Fei had quickly retracted the rod and left those fish far behind. A moment later, at the moment when the fish came out of the water, Han Fei waved his knife. Almost at the same time, the fish stuck out its tongue and was cut off by Han Fei. Clap, clap. Han Fei grabbed this fish with one hand, and its data appeared. Name: wooden fish. Introduction: a kind of fish that grows on the sea willow and lives in symbiosis with the sea willow. It can make strange sounds to attract life to come close and hunt. Level 21, quality, regular, dying, contains spiritual energy greater than 219 points, edible effect, inedible, collectible, none, absorbable. Han Fei was amazed. As soon as it left the tree, this fish immediately died. Was it this fish or the sea willow that was conscious? Was the fish itself hunting, or was the sea willow controlling these fish? Han Fei looked at this wooden fish. Its body was really like wood. It was not flexible and tough like a toy. Cook-a-thud, thud, thud. Han Fei heard the sound of this wooden fish. It was a bit like the cry of a cuckoo, but the sound was a little muffled. Huh, what kind of fish is this? Xia Xiaochan's voice suddenly came to his ears, and Han Fei almost threw the wooden fish in his hand. You scared me. Aren't you a cultivator? Why did you suddenly wake up? Xia Xiaochan didn't answer but stared at the fish in Han Fei's hand. What kind of fish is this? It can even cry. With that, Xia Xiaochan took the wooden fish. As soon as she took it, Xia Xiaochan exclaimed, Is it made of wood? Han Fei nodded. Yes, it's made of wood, a fish that grows on trees. Xia Xiaochan. Han Fei said, We are above the deep sea jungle. I just went fishing and caught this kind of wooden fish. Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei gloomily. So, you drove the fishing boat to the deep sea jungle while we were sleeping? As if he didn't hear her, Han Fei said solemnly, This is not the point. The point is that this place is magical. Do you know that the trees at the bottom of the sea are full of this kind of fish? Xia Xiaochan said disdainfully, So what? Maybe it's this kind of fish. There are all kinds of strange things in the world. Isn't it just a wooden fish? What's the big deal? Han Fei chuckled. That's easy for you to say. In addition to the wooden fish here, aren't the trees strange? At a depth of 300 or 400 meters in the deep sea, there is no photosynthesis. Even if you can grow trees, how can you grow into a jungle? What kind of energy are you absorbing? Xia Xiaochan picked up the fishing rod. Let me try. Xia Xiaochan was more curious about the sea willow that Han Fei mentioned. She couldn't imagine what a tree full of fish looked like. After a while, Xia Xiaochan shook her head. I can't go down. There are too many seaweeds and algae along the way. Han Fei thought for a while. Let's go somewhere else. After a while, the two of them changed to a place with relatively less seaweeds. After casting the hook this time, the two of them looked at each other a little surprised. Xia Xiaochan asked, Did you see a school of fish just now? Han Fei replied, No. This time, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan saw a lot of fish, but most of them were ordinary fish. Logically speaking, most of these fish should live in ordinary fisheries, but now they appeared here in large numbers. Han Fei wandered around with a winding snake technique and found that there was much more biodiversity here than in the previous place. There were sea bath vines up to hundreds of meters high, red, green, and yellow. At the bottom of the sea, there were also a large number of seaweed nests and sea anemones. On the seaweed nests, Han Fei saw many half-meter-long sea urchins, their black bodies full of thorns. Slurp! Xia Xiaochan curled her lips. Why are you drooling? Han Fei smacked his lips. Wait a minute, I found something good. Han Fei controlled the fishing hook and caught a sea urchin in the blink of an eye. He was not worried that this thing could run away at all. Sea urchins were very timid creatures in the sea and couldn't run fast at all. Ordinary small sea urchins, in places rich in algae, could move 1 meter a day. When there was not much food, they could only move a few centimeters a day. Swish, at the moment the sea urchin was hooked, the sea urchin bristled. The thorns on its body were directly ejected dozens of meters away. Han Fei smacked his lips. If you have the ability, shoot a few hundred meters, I'll count it as your win. But before Han Fei pulled it up, he saw that the ejected thorns, as if hooked by a silk thread, actually returned to the sea urchin. Han Fei was dumbfounded. F***CK, cell phone website. Chapter 214. Han Fei said to Xia Xiaochan, Wake up the fatty. Xia Xiaochan. When Xia Xiaochan pulled Lurenquang up, he was dumbfounded. What's up? Shield, shield, shield. Take out the shield. Lurenquang took out the shield in a daze and asked, What's wrong? Is there an enemy? Han Fei said, I found a good thing. Help Xiaobai block it too. This thing is a bit prickly. Lurenquang was puzzled. While blocking it with the shield, he asked, What need to shield? Can't you block it with your body? Han Fei said with a smile, I can, but I don't want me stabbed. Are you stupid? As Han Fei retracted the hook, a black thing came out of the water after a while. The moment it came out of the water, the steel thorns all over its body exploded with a swish. How? Who stabbed me? Who? Zhang Xuanyu jumped up. There was a thorn on each of his buttocks and on his back. Lurin Quang covered his mouth. Ah, I forgot to block it for him. Zhang Xuanyu shook off these thorns with spiritual energy and covered his buttocks with a look of shame and indignation. When he was about to curse, he saw a pair of black thorns shooting at him again. He immediately raised his rod to block them. At this moment, Han Fei flashed his blue sea wandering dragon daggers and cut off all the threads connecting the black thorns. When a black ball was carried up by Han Fei, Zhang Xuanyu ran over angrily. Why do you all have a shield, but I don't? At this time, Luo Xiaobai also woke up in a daze. At first glance, she saw the black thorns all over the boat and the black ball in Han Fei's hand. Luo Xiaobai asked, "What's wrong? Were we attacked?" Han Fei said with a smile, "It's okay. I just found something very delicious. It's almost dawn. I can catch it for breakfast." Everyone. Lurin Quang chuckled. "So, is this why you woke me up? Okay. You can discipline me in the future." Zhang Xuanyu's face was black. "Then why don't I have a shield?" Han Fei and Lurin Quang nodded. "I forgot." Zhang Xuanyu, Luo Xiaobai stepped forward and picked up a thorn. Then she asked in surprise, "This thorn is very hard. What is it?" "Sea urchins." Lurin Quang said in disbelief, "I'm not well educated. Don't lie to me. This thing can be eaten? There are also such things in ordinary fisheries. They're very prickly." Han Fei snorted. "We need to see the essence through the phenomenon. Can we just pull out the thorns?" After such a scene, no one was in the mood to cultivate, but Zhang Xuanyu immediately shouted, "What is this place? Why is there so much seaweed?" Luo Xiaobai narrowed her eyes. "Han Fei, did you sail the fishing boat to the deep-sea jungle?" Han Fei chuckled. "I just have nothing to do. Let me tell you, this place is very magical. There's actually a type of fish that grows on trees." Then he kicked the wooden fish in front of everyone. Lurin Quang said, "Huh? Hard. No, it can bend. Wow, this fish is really made of wood." Luo Xiaobai took the wooden fish curiously. "No, this fish still has a little vitality, but it's fading away. Does it have any abilities?" Han Fei thought for a moment. "This fish can stick out its tongue, which can be more than 10 meters long or even dozens of meters long. When Han Fei fished it just now, he cut off the tongue of this wooden fish with a knife. So, he didn't know what the characteristics of this wooden fish's tongue were." Zhang Xuanyu asked curiously, "What does the tree full of wooden fish look like? This kind of weird thing usually contains treasures." Han Fei shrugged. "I don't know. I didn't see all of them, but I don't think it's very likely that there are treasures here." Xiao Xiaochan asked why. Han Fei naturally had his own ideas. For example, the oxygen content in places with seaweed was 40 to 50 times higher than in other places. Therefore, the creatures here were quite complicated. There were definitely countless creatures below. Since so many creatures could survive here, if there were any treasures, they would have been eaten by these creatures long ago. How could it be their turn? Han Fei said, "Look, there are quite a lot of creatures below. If there were really treasures, would they be ours?" Zhang Xuanyu shook his head. "Not necessarily. If what you said is true, why is the deep-sea jungle considered the second most dangerous place in the level 2 fishery?" Han Fei smiled. "You want to know? Go down and have a look." Luo Xiaobai frowned. "No, at least not now. You cook first. The others continue to cultivate. I feel that the range of my perception seems to have increased a bit." Lurin Quang scratched his head. "Me too. Maybe that picture is to enhance our perception." Zhang Xuanyu laughed. "Oh, then I'll continue to sleep. Fei, stop fishing. At least inform me in advance." In the blink of an eye, the three of them ran to sleep, and only Xia Xiaochan curiously squatted next to the sea urchin. Han Fei asked in surprise, "Why don't you go to sleep?" Xia Xiaochan poked the sea urchin with her finger. "I don't want to sleep. I'm more curious about what's down there. Of course, I'm also curious about this sea urchin." Han Fei smiled. "Really? Let me tell you, this thing is very delicious." In the morning, when a large basin of sushi was laid out, Han Fei looked at the sushi and sighed slightly. It's a pity that some ingredients are missing. Otherwise, it would be very delicious. The sushi was missing rice, mustard, and salad. Fortunately, Han Fei caught a fish, dug out the fish eggs, and asked Xia Xiaochan to dry the kelp and make seaweed slices. With crab meat, crab paste, cucumber slices, and a dish of vinegar, it was perfect. Huh? Han Fei looked at the sushi, admiring his own work, but then he was a little surprised. A string of data caught his attention. Name: Spiky Sea Urchin Sushi Introduction. This is a food made of a variety of essence ingredients. It has a delicate taste and is full of spiritual energy. It's very rare. Level 20, quality rare, contains spiritual energy greater than 282 points, effect satiety. Increased chi and blood in a short period of time. 1 hour. This was not the first time Han Fei had seen this kind of data. He had always cooked for himself, so he had seen this kind of data many times. It was just to satisfy his hunger and to satisfy his appetite. However, this was the first time that he had seen a rare quality. If you were talking about various ingredients, the ingredients for hot pot were the most abundant, but the hot pot was just a mortal level, high-quality stew. Even the squid hot pot in the level 2 fishery was mortal level, but this time it skipped the mystic level and became a spirit level. And it even had a buff effect of increasing chi and blood. Han Fei was stunned. At this time, Han Fei remembered what old Jiang once said, "It's not bad to be a chef." At that time, Han Fei's answer was that he cooked for himself and he would never be a chef. Later, when he was making vinegar, old Jiang said to him intentionally or unintentionally that the more powerful the creature was, the stronger the effect would be after eating it. At that time, Han Fei didn't take it seriously. Could eating make one stronger? But now he suddenly felt that something was wrong. What if this buff became permanent? Now it was just an ingredient in the level 2 fishery, and it was just an ordinary ingredient. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, if I get some super high-level ingredients, can I get a permanent buff? Blood chi, strengthening, physical body, strengthening. These things were much more comfortable than cultivation. Xia Xiaochan waved her hand in front of Han Fei. Han Fei. Han Fei was taken aback. What's wrong? Xia Xiaochan said, "Some things are raw and not cooked." Han Fei chuckled. "Some things need to be cooked, and some don't. Look, dip it in some vinegar." With that, Han Fei picked up a piece of sushi, dipped it in vinegar, and threw it into his mouth, narrowing his eyes. He had to admit that seafood with spiritual energy was really different. It was so delicious that it could explode. Liu Renquang suddenly sat up with a swish. "I smell vinegar," Xia Xiaochan sneered. "Foodie." When Zhang Xuanyu and Luo Xiaobai were woken up, they began to eat the sushi one bite at a time. Liu Renquang said, Fei Fei, how about you teach me how to cook? How can I have such unconstrained culinary skills? Han Fei said mysteriously, "Innovation. The 3 elements of food are good-looking, delicious, and tasty. If you combine these 3 elements, you will become a great chef." Liu Renquang's face was full of admiration. He had wanted to learn Han Fei's creative techniques for a long time, but he couldn't. Every time Han Fei made a new dish, he didn't know that food could be so compatible. A figure came leisurely, and it was Wenrinyu who stepped onto the fishing boat. Under the shocked gazes of the 5 people, she picked up a piece of sushi, dipped it in vinegar, and put it in her mouth. Wenrinyu swallowed. "Han Fei, you will be punished to cook for a month when we go back." Han Fei. Cell phone website. Chapter 215. Everyone was surprised by Wenrinyu's appearance. Didn't she say that they would continue to practice? She just paid attention to them secretly. Why did she show up now? Han Fei said ingratiatingly, "Teacher, we've all arrived at the deep-sea jungle. It's not right if we don't go down and have a look, right?" Zhang Xuanyu nodded quickly. "Yes. Teacher, we're already here. You won't ask us to go back now, will you?" Wenrinyu had been eating sushi. After the 2 of them finished talking, she said faintly, "That's why I punished you to go back and cook for a month. And let me tell you clearly, there are actually no treasures in the deep-sea jungle." Han Fei was surprised. "Teacher, have you been down there?" Wenrinyu snorted. "If you want to go down, go. Don't ask me. But this time I'll go down with you. I won't take action unless it's absolutely necessary." Smack! Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu exchange a palm strike. It was a success. Wenren shook her head slightly when she saw this scene. But she remembered that she was also curious about these magical underwater worlds. In fact, before coming here, the three teachers had already discussed it. If Han Fei and the others really wanted to go to the sea, let them. As Han Fei said, since they were already here, they might as well teach them a lesson. With Wenrenyu's promise, everyone, including Luo Xiaobai, was overjoyed. After a moment, Han Fei said, "Fatty, remember to be ready to attack at any time. There are too many seaweeds underwater, and there's a layer of long seaweed at the bottom. Once there are signs of being entangled, attack." Lu Renquang patted his chest and promised, "Okay. However, I don't believe that these plants will be very dangerous." Everyone jumped into the water, and Han Fei and Lu Renquang held knives and pushed away the seaweed and the white algae. After diving into the water, no more than 10 meters away, a group of fish and seaweed entangled them. This was expected, and no one was surprised. As soon as Lu Renquang attacked, the seaweed around them was shattered. When they dived 30 meters, there were already shoals of fish. Although they were just ordinary fish, they were still quite powerful. Soon, everyone was surrounded by chopped seaweed and fish. Luo Xiaobai said, "Pay attention to those broad-leaved seaweeds. They're extending towards us." The broadleaf seaweed has to be completely crushed. Han Fei recognized this kind of seaweed at a glance. According to the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants, this thing was called Chirin. Lu Renquang said, "Don't worry. Leave it to me." With a flash of light on his arm, the 1,000-bladed tortoise appeared. In the next moment, the 1,000 blades flew out and rapidly slashed towards the seaweed. However, to everyone's surprise, the seaweed was not cut into pieces. The seaweed curled the leaf into a stick almost instantly. It reminded Han Fei of the mimosa plant. But unlike Starbeck, the sticks didn't show any signs of retreating. The curled leaves were like iron rods as they clashed with the 1,000-blade tortoise's sharp blades. For a moment, hundreds and thousands of seaweed sticks were like tentacles reaching out from the bottom of the sea, waving angrily. Of course, in the end, these seaweed sticks didn't have the upper hand. A considerable number of them were ultimately chopped off by the 1,000-blade turtle. However, to everyone's surprise, the chopped broad leaves unfolded again and turned into long strips of seaweed, sweeping at Han Fei and the others again. One or two were easy to deal with, but when hundreds of broad leaves swept at them at the same time, the area where Han Fei and the others were blocked almost in the blink of an eye. Lu Renquang's face immediately changed. "Don't move. Let me do it. It seems that we have to crush them." Torrents of knives and swords. The 1,000-blade turtle's blades were flying outside, and Lu Renquang's blades were slashing from inside. Everybody seemed to be involved in a vortex. Of course, the blockade of the broad leaves was soon broken. Luo Xiaobai said, "Not good. These broad leaves are releasing an unknown substance that seems to be poisonous." Everybody hurried to crawl out of the blocked area. Wenrenyu appeared behind them and said, "First time, if these seaweeds are not regular seaweeds in the level 2 fishery, and if you haven't taken the exotic poisonous fruit and the moon-watching fruit, you will be paralyzed. Then you will be dragged into the sea by these seaweeds and eventually die." Everybody had a cold sweat on their backs. They had miscalculated. They thought of the situation that Wenrenyu said. If they really encountered these seaweeds, they would all be dead at the beginning of the battle. The others all swallowed. No wonder this deep-sea jungle was known as the second most dangerous place in the level 2 fishery. Half of the ordinary great fishing masters would be killed by the seaweeds on the upper layer before they could dive deeper. However, this also broadened their horizons and increased their vigilance. The existence of any kind of life at the bottom of the sea was not meaningless, even the ordinary plants such as seaweed and seaweed. The crushed seaweeds left only bare vines and a round food bag at the top. Yes, these seaweeds had food bags, and every food bag was round and bulging. Lu Renquang split one, only to find that it was full of all kinds of digested and undigested fish and bones. Xia Xiaochan immediately swam over and cut off the seaweed food bag, leaving only a bare pole. Zhang Xuanyu knocked the pole with a rod and said to everyone via voice transmission, "It's at least as hard as mortal level, low quality." "It's very hard." Luo Xiaobai said, "Be careful. Don't worry about these vines. We don't need them." Everyone nodded one after another and continued to dive. Perhaps it was because the seaweeds on the upper layer provided cover for the lower layer. After diving for nearly 100 meters, they didn't encounter any danger. Of course, if a school of fish was dangerous. There were schools of fish everywhere. At best, there were only some ironhead fish, swordfish, and striped fish here. In everyone's view, the appearance of these ordinary fish here provided a large amount of food for the plants here. But they also knew that since these fish still came here knowing that it was dangerous, it meant that they could also gain benefits here, benefits that they had to take risks. Soon, everyone seemed to discover the secret of the gathering of fish. Further down, the vines were covered with all kinds of shells. In addition to shells, there were all kinds of conches here. Some conches were even mutated, and their shells could emit a brilliant luster. Xiao Xiaochan also picked a few of them. Han Fei saw an orange-red, vertically flat fish biting and pulling conches on the vines. When the large, unknown object approached, the fish swam and swam downstream. Xiao Xiaochan was overjoyed. "I feel that this place is even more beautiful than the coral reefs." Han Fei scoffed. "The more beautiful a place is, the more dangerous it is. Just like the more beautiful a woman is, the less trustworthy she is." "What did you say?" He scolded 3 times in a row. One from Xiao Xiaochan, one from Wen Renyu, and one from Luo Xiaobai. The 3 of them glared at Han Fei. Zhang Xuanyu smacked his lips. Fei, don't be so straightforward, okay? You'll be beaten to death." Han Fei blushed. He didn't expect to reveal such a secret. After diving for another 40 to 50 meters, uneven rocks of various heights appeared. However, these rocks had long been covered by seaweed, and some were directly covered by sea anemones. Han Fei saw a cluster of red and white sea anemones, with 10 large tentacles growing out of its body, and countless small tentacles growing out of the large tentacles. The tentacles swayed with the waves, and as soon as a school of striped fish swam by, 3 or 4 were immediately caught. This tentacle caught 3 or 4 striped fish and sent them directly into the hole in the middle of this sea anemone. Along the way, everyone saw the black armored turtle, the red spot squid, the big fish with 2 sharp teeth in its mouth, and the mantis shrimp jumping out with a swoosh to hunt. Of course, they didn't just see them. A school of striped fish wanted to attack Han Fei and the others, but they all fled after being slapped by Luo Xiaobai's vines. They seemed to be afraid of the vines. BM, Lurenquang was sent flying. When everyone realized what happened, it turned out to be a green mantis shrimp hiding in the seaweed. Lurenquang was annoyed. "What level are you? How dare you attack me?" With that, he shot out a knife with a swoosh, directly cutting the mantis shrimp in half. Further down, through the arch-like seabed rocks, they saw that the seabed was covered with a layer of shells of clams, scallops, conches, and spider crabs. Yes, a whole layer of shells, almost covering the entire seabed of sand and stones. Xia Xiaochan found a few beautiful shells and directly fell to the bottom of the sea, ready to pick them up. In an instant, a long worm suddenly rushed out of the sand, so fast that it was almost as fast as the mantis shrimp. Xia Xiaochan was so scared that she flashed away. When she took a closer look, she found that it was a sea python, a level 28 green-scale python. The moment Xia Xiaochan flashed away, she pounced back, put away her knife, and attacked with all her strength, directly cutting the green-scaled python into 7 or 8 pieces. Han Fei said, "As I said, be careful. You better not get close to the cracks in the rocks. Let's go forward. There are sea willows over there, covered with wooden fish." Chapter 2:16. In this world, Han Fei didn't even know if there was a rainforest or where it was. Green forests like the deep-sea jungle were the main source of oxygen. Once there was enough oxygen, the body of the creature would become larger. Han Fei found that the creatures here were generally much stronger. They were also several times larger than the creatures in other places. At this moment, the situation at the bottom of the sea was clear. A large amount of seaweed floated along with the current, like a layer of green carpet underwater. However, this carpet was full of danger. Not to mention other things, just the hundreds and thousands of sea urchins on the ground were enough to make people feel intimidated. 1,000 meters away, there was a sudden explosion. Everyone only saw a ball being hit by something. It was a dragonhead fish that was 4 to 5 meters long. It had sharp teeth and was chasing after the ball. Zhang Xuanyu said in surprise, "Amazing. Didn't they say that this place is very dangerous? Why is this dragonhead fish playing with a ball?" The ball in Han Fei's eyes was not a real ball. Data appeared. Taipan Zhang, it was a rare octopus found in the undersea jungle. It possessed extremely high intelligence, and its octopus eyes were helpful in cultivating ocular techniques. 29 rarity, 581 points long-term consumption can increase blood and qi. Octopi, when they got closer, they realized that the ball was different. Instead of calling it a ball, it was actually a ball made up of a bunch of seabed shells. Outside the shell, a large number of suckers could be seen. Zhang Xuanyu's expression changed slightly. Octopus. The expressions of the others also changed slightly. Han Fei was very excited. He had been to the sea many times, but this was the first time he had seen an octopus, and it was in such a way. Luo Xiaobai pulled Han Fei. "Don't come any closer." The octopus was a creature that possessed terrifying strength. It was not something that squids and cuttlefish could compare to. Theoretically, octopuses were rarely seen in level 1 and level 2 fisheries because octopuses were too strong. Therefore, every 100 years, there will be a hunting operation. Han Fei was surprised. Operation Hunting Emblem? In Han Fei's impression, octopuses were smart creatures, but they were also timid. How did an octopus become a powerful creature here? As he said that, the ironhead fish bit a corner of the ball. The ironhead fish's body rotated in the sea, which was the fish's normal way of hunting. By spinning, it tore the hunter apart. But why didn't the dragon-headed fish think about the other person's ball? Couldn't the other person turn it? As it spun, 2 tentacles suddenly stretched out and pierced into the gills of the dragon-head fish. In an instant, 2 tentacles turned into sharp thorns and extended from both sides of the dragon-headed fish head. This scene caused everyone's hearts to turn cold. Wenrinyu said indifferently, "This is a trap." The octopus was using itself as bait to hunt. It looks weak, but its strength can easily tear this dragon-headed fish in half. As soon as Wenrinyu finished speaking, the sphere suddenly opened and a pile of shells fell down. At this moment, its true body was revealed. It was 3 to 4 meters in size. Its tentacles hooked onto the dragon-head fish, and it was fleeing into the distance. While running, he glanced in the direction of Han Fei and the others. The great plate octopus seemed to have sensed danger. The moment it escaped, the color of its body began to change from red to green. It dragged the dragon-head fish into the seaweed and disappeared. Xia Xiaochan exclaimed, "This octopus seems quite smart." Lurenquang nodded. "It found us a long time ago. Just now, it has been aiming at us. We can't have too many of them. If a lot of them come together, they will be much more difficult to deal with than squids and squids." Luo Xiaobai suggested, "Let's go. This is just the most common place in the seabed jungle. Let's go deeper and see." Everyone nodded, and Wenrinyu shook her head slightly in the back. Sure enough, ignorance is bliss. This group of children was very courageous, just like how they had been in the past. They had also traversed through dangerous places until the seaweed swayed with the rhythm of the sea current. Han Fei and the others were floating dozens of meters above. Along the way, they passed by one emerald vine pole after another. Occasionally, those sea urchins would shoot out the thorns on their bodies, but everyone reacted faster and could avoid them as long as they moved up a little. Soon, they saw a bamboo forest ahead. Yes, it was a bamboo forest. Green bamboos stood in the sea, and bamboo leaves fell from the bamboo poles hundreds of meters high. Zhang Xuanyu's eyes widened. "Is this bamboo? So many bamboo?" Han Fei was secretly shocked too. Wasn't this the bamboo rod that Xiaoyu used? He used to think that bamboo sticks were rare at the bottom of the sea. But here, there were so many of them that he couldn't even count them. Luo Xiaobai stretched out her hand, and the vines swept over. As soon as they entered the bamboo forest, they saw that there were many long insects on the bamboo that were integrated with the bamboo and attacked the vines. Stick insect companion insects attached to bamboo and live by preying on fish. After they died and fell to the bottom of the sea, they would become bamboo seeds. 22 ordinary 404 points can be used as medicine to strengthen physique, and then everyone stopped, and Luo Xiaobai said, "There are too many insects. Let's pass by them." Han Fei said, "Wait a minute." Under everyone's gaze, Han Fei took out a fishing rod and shot it out with a swish. Immediately, a bamboo shoot was hooked back by Han Fei. Han Fei continued to cast the hook. Don't just stand there. Natural sea bamboo shoots are absolutely delicious. You can't find them on the floating island. Everyone, Luren Kwong immediately cast the hook and responded, "Fei Fei, you are my idol now. You can think of delicious anything you see." "Why can't I think of that?" Han Fei snorted. "Do you know what marine creatures value most?" Luren Kwong shook his head. "Eating." A smile appeared on Han Fei's lips. Most sea creatures work hard for food every day. Therefore, any marine creature, except those that are poisonous, can basically be eaten, but the method of eating needs to be considered. Han Fei, you are born to be fat. Zhang Xuanyu agreed. Yes, you are much more proficient than Luren Kwong. God knows why you have lost weight now. Han Fei snorted. Delicious food can't be wasted. It's fine as long as we eat with good taste. How can we get fat if we eat to satisfy our appetite? Everyone counted on Han Fei for the next month's food. So they all took out fishing rods to hook sea bamboo shoots and didn't stop until they had hooked thousands of caddies. Passing through the bamboo forest, Han Fei and the others had to pass through a rocky place covered with water weeds. They were just about to pass through when a huge whip came across the air. Luo Xiaobai's expression changed. Ambush. The vines were like whips, whipping at the whip. When they saw it clearly, they found that it was a big tentacle more than 10 meters long. At the same time, tentacles were lashing at them from all directions. Luo Xiaobai said, "It's an octopus." Without Luo Xiaobai saying anything, everyone had seen it. An octopus tens of meters long was actually attached to the stone, and its body and the stone had become the same color. Han Fei said excitedly, "Fatty, be gentle. Don't break it. Just kill it and take it to the pot." Luren Kwong was dumbfounded. This octopus would be fine if it encountered him, but if it encountered Han Fei, it would only end up in the pot. However, the octopus's tentacles were suddenly covered with spiritual energy and whipped away Luren Kwong's knives and swords. Luo Xiaobai said, "It's above level 30. Let's cooperate." Deep blue. Dozens of vines jumped out from the bottom of the sea and blocked those tentacles. But the flexibility of the vines was much worse than that of the octopus's tentacles. The big octopus quickly bypassed the vines and went straight to Han Fei and the others. The huge suckers looked very creepy. At this moment, it was Han Fei's turn to take action. Several blue sea wandering dragon daggers swept past the octopus's tentacles crazily, and the cold power almost paralyzed the tentacles. Xia Xiaochan's body flashed, and she appeared next to the octopus's head, which really scared it. By the time the big plate octopus realized what was going on, the daggers had already pierced into its head. But was an octopus a creature that would die after being stabbed? Obviously not. An octopus had 3 hearts and 9 brains. It was once suspected to be an alien creature. Immediately, many tentacles strangled Xia Xiaochan, but Xia Xiaochan flashed away, leaving the red fire tricky lobster behind. This was the only contractual spiritual beast of the fire attribute among them. The red fire tricky lobster slithered into the big plate octopus's head. Then, everyone saw that the octopus's head was red. Its brain must have been melted. Han Fei quickly said, Hey, slow down. Don't burn the inside. How can we eat it?" Xia Xiaochan, when Rinyu was at the back, quietly watching this scene. This big plate octopus was really unlucky to encounter Han Fei and the others. If it encountered an ordinary great fishing master, it might have been killed by it, but it encountered Han Fei and the others. Han Fei suddenly looked at Wenrinyu. "Master, do you have enough sea-swallowing seashells?" Chapter 217. Wenrinyu suddenly found that she seemed to have become a bag carrier. Yes, on their way, Han Fei and the others had hunted the great plate octopus, sea urchins, red-nosed fish, crayfish, and quite a few starfish. Han Fei asked, "Have you noticed that this place is not as dangerous as you think? It's just that there are too many creatures hiding here." Zhang Xuanyu asked suspiciously, "I'm afraid it's more dangerous than this place." Xia Xiaochan said, "Actually, it's already very dangerous. How many regular great fishing masters can stay here for half an hour?" Lu Renquang added, "I think this place should rank fourth behind the piercing electricity zone. It's beautiful and less dangerous." Crack! Everybody was suddenly alarmed. They stomped on the ground and swam upward almost at the same time, only to see a creature that looked like a centipede with claws all over its body skimming past where they had just passed. Its 10-meter-long body drilled into the sand almost in the blink of an eye. Xia Xiaochan's face was slightly pale. "Disgusting. I've never seen such a huge, hard-armored sandworm before." Han Fei blinked. Was that a sandworm? Did the sandworms here look like this? Their blue shells were glittering like scales. Also, why did the sandworms have such long legs? Suddenly thinking of something, Han Fei asked timidly, "Are the sandworms here solitary creatures?" Everybody felt a chill down their backs when they heard that. That's right. Was there only one big sandworm here? Hardly had Han Fei said that when the bottom of the sea surged and one big sandworm after another broke out of the soil. The sandworm's head was its mouth. When it opened its mouth, its whole head seemed to be blooming, and it bit at Han Fei and the others with its big, black mouth. Shoot! Torrents of knives and swords. Water wall. Han Fei waved his hands with spiritual energy and condensed water walls. Together with Lu Renquang's torrents of knives and swords, a sandworm was minced into pieces. However, a sandworm far away spurted spiritual energy from its mouth. The spiritual energy easily penetrated Han Fei's water wall. Zhang Xuanyu was targeted. At this moment, the long rod in his hand surged and suddenly rushed out, smashing the spiritual light into pieces. The seawater around them trembled, and everyone saw that the thing that had lost the spiritual light was actually a tooth. Zhang Xuanyu's face changed slightly. The attack power of his teeth is very strong, seemingly beyond the realm of a junior great fishing master. Hearing this, everyone's face changed slightly. A random insect has an attack beyond the realm of a junior great fishing master? Then let's kill our way out. Wait for them to chase after us. This thing can't be eaten. However, if he wanted to run now, it was already too late. Thousands of clam worms emerged from the ground, stretching all the way as if there was no end in sight. Han Fei's face changed greatly. Attack! Attach! With the 9-tailed mantis shrimp attached to him, he swept his 7 tails behind him and launched 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers at the same time. At the same time, he activated a spiritual energy protective cover and rushed out first. Xia Xiaochan and Luo Xiaobai followed closely. The two girls were not as good as Han Fei and Lu Renquang in terms of defense, so they walked in the middle. Zhang Xuanyu was the most miserable. He had only killed 2 clam worms after using the 7-layered waves in Furious Sea. However, the dense spiritual energy fangs broke his defense repeatedly, and his protective cover broke 2 or 3 times. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. Fei, spiritual energy. Han Fei killed all the way while using the spirit-gathering art to constantly transmit spiritual energy to everyone. Han Fei scolded, "What the hell are you doing? I'll lead the way, and Lu Renquang will cover the rear. You run forward with your golden water silkworm." Luo Xiaobai was surrounded by vines, like a walking giant flower. She could barely defend herself. Xia Xiaochan was too flexible and could go invisible, so she ran very fast. Only Zhang Xuanyu didn't know how to go invisible and was still using rod techniques. Although his attack was strong, clam worms, like snakes, could divert the force, which was very disadvantageous to him. Relatively speaking, Han Fei and Lu Rinquang were the most relaxed. The two of them were surrounded by swords and knives. Han Fei was fine. On Lu Rinquang's side, swords and knives were flying out of his armor box. The thousand-blade turtle was like a walking meat grinder, and almost all the clam worms chasing after him were killed by him. Wenren followed them extremely fast and jumped from one clam worm to another in the blink of an eye. She didn't seem to care about the poisonous fangs that shot at her because none of them could touch her. But at this moment, Wenren was a little surprised. Han Fei and the others cooperated well, and Luo Xiaobai even had time to help Zhang Xuanyu block the attacks. The five of them lined up in a straight line, like a long dragon swimming in shallow water. Wherever they passed, there were broken bodies everywhere. But they needed a lot of spiritual energy to support such a burst of speed. As a result, except for Han Fei, the other's spiritual energy was almost exhausted in less than a moment. Han Fei could only transmit spiritual energy to them. As a result, their speed plummeted, and more clam worms surrounded them. Han Fei stepped on the spirit gathering array and fully activated the water control technique. Although he couldn't completely block the poisonous fangs, he gave them some time to recover. Luo Xiaobai said, "No, this speed is still too slow. We have to find another way." Xia Xiaochan said, "Use a fishing rod." Han Fei, your spiritual vision is the largest. Throw the rod and run. I'll hang on you, and Xiaobai will hang on me. Han Fei scoffed. What an evil word. Lu Rinquang was anxious. Hurry up, there are too many. How can there be so many clam worms? Han Fei nodded. The role of the fishing rod was highlighted in this situation. Han Fei threw the rod straight and bypassed the clam worms in front of him like a swimming snake. Luo Xiaobai and the others threw the rod one after another and caught the clam worms one after another according to Xia Xiaochan's instructions. As Han Fei exerted his strength, everyone seemed to be riding an undersea roller coaster. Surrounded by blades, the five of them passed through the clam worms at an extremely fast speed. Everywhere it passed, it left a trail of wind and clouds in a mess. Wenren stood behind them, the corners of her mouth slightly curling up. Xia Xiaochan reacted very quickly and was the first to analyze the role of the fishing rod in this situation. Han Fei's endurance was very strong, and he was better than others in the comprehensive use of spiritual energy. Lu Rinquang's attack was very strong, and he had a great advantage in a group battlefield. Luo Xiaobai's comprehensive strength was stable, and she was an all-rounder. As for Zhang Xuanyu, he was never weak in one-on-one battles, but he was obviously at a disadvantage in group battles. When he returned to school, he had to find a group combat skill for him. After a while, when Han Fei and the others ran out of the clamworms area, they were all biting the vines and gasping for breath. Zhang Xuanyu said, "I told you, it's the second most dangerous place. The soul-attracting jellyfish in the piercing electricity zone can hide, but the clamworms in the deep-sea jungle have no place to hide at all. Ordinary great fishing masters have no chance to run away." Luo Xiaobai nodded in agreement. In this situation, just now, a spirit gatherer and an armorist are both indispensable. The conditions are very restrictive. It's true that there is a slim chance of survival. Han Fei cast the divine healing technique on everyone and then slowly said, "How far do we swim just now?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. "More than 100 kilometers." Han Fei nodded. The deep-sea jungle covered a total of 300 kilometers, and 1/3 of it was occupied by the clamworms. It was indeed dangerous. Han Fei said, "Let's take a break and wait for our injuries to heal and our spiritual energy to recover." Luo Xiaobai frowned. "Where's the sea willow tree?" Han Fei said awkwardly. "It seems to be on the other side." Han Fei thought to himself, I didn't expect it to be like this down there. Originally, he just wanted to find a place with less seaweed to go into the water. However, there was no sea willow tree at all, but a bunch of clamworms. While talking, Zhang Xuanyu said, Have you noticed that there's a lot less seaweed here? And even the seaweed vines are gone. Han Fei also noticed this, so he said, there must be something wrong. When we go over later, try to swim higher. Everyone nodded. Originally, they came down to see if there were any treasures. However, they didn't find any treasures, but found many creatures that couldn't be found anywhere else. Luren Kwong said, I want to eat hot pot. Everyone was speechless. You want to eat hot pot at this time? What are you thinking? Luren Kwong patted his belly and said, there are no treasures down there. Is there also a rock-holding turtle here? Are the clam worms a treasure? Han Fei grinned. You'll believe me if I tell you the truth. If you have the ability to break through the nest of the clam worms, there will definitely be spiritual fruits. If not, I lose. Xiao Xiaochan said, come on, then don't take it. If you really want to go into the clam worm's nest, you won't be able to come back up. Han Fei shrugged. That's exactly what happened. While they were talking, they saw smoke and dust a kilometer away. They didn't notice it before, so they thought it was just that. But gradually, the seawater became turbid, which attracted their attention. Luo Xiaobai's expression changed slightly. Be careful, prepare for battle. Chapter 218. As soon as they calmed down, something happened. Everyone couldn't help but smile bitterly. Seriously? Han Fei said, wait, that's not right. The smoke is only dozens of meters in radius. It can't be clam worms. Xiao Xiaochan waved her fishing rod and shot it over. Whatever it is, let's go and take a look. Now that everyone had learned spiritual vision, it was much more convenient for them to do anything. If they wanted to see what was going on, they could just fish over. Xiao Xiaochan suddenly frowned. What kind of fish is it that looks like a pot lid? A pot lid popped up in Han Fei's mind. Rays? Luo Xiaobai asked, huh? Rays? How can there be rays in the level 2 fishery? Xiao Xiaochan said, in addition to the pot lid, there are a lot of spider crabs, a lot. Zhang Xuanyu was relieved. This is easier to deal with than clam worms. Maybe we can get some blood spider silk to sell in the town. It's not cheap. Xiao Xiaochan suggested. Why don't you go and take a look yourself? Zhang Xuanyu was puzzled. He threw out his fishing rod, and then his face changed. Immediately, he shook his head and said, forget it. I think the Fish Dragon Hot Pot restaurant is already profitable enough. Let's forget about selling blood spider silk. Han Fei asked, so where should we go? Xiao Xiaochan asked, where else can we go? We must go upstream. Everyone immediately swam upward. But after swimming for less than 50 meters, they found a layer of striped algae. The striped seaweed was covered with densely packed, long, striped worms. Luo Xiaobai's face changed greatly. Not good. Spirit-swallowing worms. Retreat. Han Fei frowned when he saw the spirit-swallowing worms no larger than a little finger. A string of data appeared. Name, spirit-swallowing worm. Introduction, a low-level spiritual worm that lives on striped algae. Once touched, it will melt and build a nest in the human body. Level 3, quality, rare, spiritual energy greater than 15 points, effect, inedible, absorbable. Han Fei's blood froze. Although its level was not high, it could melt and build a nest in the human body. He couldn't even imagine it. Han Fei had read that spiders could lay eggs in the human body. How terrible would that thing be? His entire body had turned into a spider's nest. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Luren Kwong ran the fastest. He said telepathically while running, I'd rather fight spider crabs than be touched by this thing. Thus, just as everyone was about to go up, they quickly came back down. But when they came down, their expressions didn't look any better. Luren Kwong stopped 20 meters from the bottom of the sea. Below them were countless spider crabs. These spider crabs seemed to have built a ladder and laid on top of each other, leaving crab legs everywhere. In places where there weren't many spider crabs, there were indeed rays swimming around. It wasn't an ordinary skate either. It was a pancake that was 7 or 8 meters long, and its tail was as long as its body. In total, it was more than 10 meters long. Han Fei looked over. Name, Pan Yao. Introduction. Its mouth has a powerful suction force, and it likes to prey on spider crabs that have shed their shells. It is extremely territorial, and its tail has needles that contain poison. Level 29, quality, Rare contains spiritual energy 0 points effect. Tail needle. Absorbable. Han Fei said in a hurry. Don't be stung by the tail of the ray. It's highly poisonous. Zhang Xuanyu said. Who cares about the rays? There are too many spider crabs. They're piling up like a hill. Isn't it fun? Xia Xiaochan said. Some spider crabs are soft. Look, those rays can eat half of them in one bite. Luo Xiaobai said. These are spider crabs molting. Spider crabs have to molt if they want to grow bigger. It's said that spider crabs can molt 9 times in their lifetime. Every time they molt, they will become stronger. However, every time they molt, they will be at their weakest. Their new shells haven't hardened yet. Let's rush over. Han Fei was slightly surprised. He knew that spider crabs molted, but this was obviously not the same species as what he knew. The spider crabs in front of him were at least 2 meters long, purple and red all over, and full of barbs. He wondered how many times they had molted. He felt that there were more spider crabs that hadn't molted than those that had. They swam quickly all the way. As far as the eye could see, there were spider crabs everywhere. In some places, the spider crabs were piled up dozens of meters high, one on top of another. The ones at the bottom must have been crushed to death. Han Fei said telepathically, we can only go down. Just pay attention to those rays. Yes, the hill-like spider crabs were more than 50 meters high. They were even hundreds of meters high. Han Fei and the others couldn't go around them, so they could only go through the places where there were fewer spider crabs. And those places were a paradise for rays. At this moment, they were all preying on the molting spider crabs. Zhang Xuanyu patted Han Fei and Luren Kuang. You two go ahead. You're really strong. This time, I'm going to strengthen my body when I go back. Luren Kuang nodded. I'm not resistant to poison. Han Fei, stay outside. Han Fei. Han Fei was speechless. Are you guys out of your mind? You're not resistant to poison, but you make it sound like I'm resistant to poison. However, Han Fei didn't care about this and turned around to signal to them that it was feasible. But when he turned around, he found that Xia Xiaochan and Luo Xiaobai were gone. Zhang Xuanyu said, don't look. Both of them are invisible. Did you forget that Xiaobai's contractual spiritual beast is an invisible jellyfish? Han Fei nodded, but he was a little surprised. Then he looked to the side. Although he didn't see anyone, his spiritual perception detected that Luo Xiaobai was only 3 meters away on his left. Han Fei was a little surprised. Her spiritual perception was quite powerful. She could even see through the invisible Luo Xiaobai. He immediately tried to find Xia Xiaochan, but he could only vaguely see her shadow. She was still transparent. Han Fei wondered, is Xia Xiaochan's stealth ability strong? Or is the invisible jellyfish's ability weak? Han Fei didn't care anymore and quickly swam over. Just when Han Fei approached the bottom of the sea, those plate rays fluttered their seaweed-like bodies and rushed at Han Fei. Han Fei ignored them and said to Luren Kuang, give me a stick. The armor box flashed and a stick shot at Han Fei. Han Fei took the stick and launched a spiritual energy explosion, and a rumbling sound came from the bottom of the sea. The powerful long tail of the plate ray was blown away, and it spun in circles in the sea under Han Fei's attack. But this was nothing. One of the plate rays actually stood up, revealing the big mouth on its belly that looked like a baby's face. When it opened its big mouth, even the surrounding seawater was shaking, and a huge suction force pulled everyone. Han Fei's face changed slightly, and he was about to break this mouth with a million knife art. But before he took action, a spider crab was grabbed by vines and stuffed into the big mouth of the plate ray. The suction force suddenly stopped, and Han Fei almost laughed. Han Fei said in amusement, Xiaobai, you're good. Luo Xiaobai said, let's go. There's still a lot of rays. Han Fei nodded. Got it. Kuang Kuang, hurry up. You're the slowest. Luren Kuang was speechless. I want to be faster, but I don't have Zhang Xuanyu's golden water silkworm. My spiritual beast is the mussel, and my contractual spiritual beast is the tortoise. How can I be fast? At this time, the all-rounder Luo Xiaobai took action. She wrapped the vines around Luren Kuang at a swooshing speed. Han Fei was responsible for fighting the plate rays and cooperating with Luo Xiaobai to stuff the crabs. Their journey was more daunting than dangerous, and they were easier to deal with than the sandworms. But before they were happy for long, hundreds of plate rays gathered in front of them, and they were all stunned. However, Zhang Xuanyu said in a trembling voice, "Look, big ray." Han Fei quickly stepped forward, and then his heart was in his throat. The plate ray was more than 30 meters long, and with the length of its tail, it was 60 meters long. It looked like a F*King spaceship. His eyes almost popped out when he saw it. At this moment, there was no turning back. There were spider crabs as big as a mountain next to them, huge plate rays in front of them, spirits swallowing bugs on them, and plate rays behind them. They had to choose a side to fight. It was impossible for them to go back, but they could at least fight this side. If they went to the sandworms' territory again, they would be exhausted even if they didn't die. How could they go back to the sandworms' territory without seeing anything? Just when they were eager to make a choice, a huge crab foot suddenly stretched out of the spider crabs. Each crab foot was more than 10 meters long, and it hooked at the plate ray. Chapter 219. At this moment, the 5 of them were all dumbfounded. Even Wenrinyu behind them looked solemn and was ready to take action at any time. Zhang Xuanyu asked, "Did we choose the wrong direction?" Xia Xiaochan said in distress, "It would be great if you could all go invisible." Luo Xiaobai said in a daze, "These two, they should be very strong, right? Why did they appear in the level 2 fishery?" Han Fei chuckled. "Isn't it normal? A race usually needs a king. Look at these two. Their heads are obviously the 2 big shots. Let's not do anything and let them fight first. It's best if both sides are injured and we can reap the benefits." Everyone, Han Fei said, "Are you stupid? These 2 big fellows were fighting to the point where they were half dead. If we kill them, how many meals will we have to eat?" Everyone, Lurinquang gave Han Fei a thumbs up. Good idea." Wenrinyu's face was all black. Han Fei always said that Lurinquang was a foodie, but he was actually a foodie. He even wanted to take these 2 big guys away. He knew that he couldn't take them away, so he wanted me to take them away, right? In fact, in Han Fei's eyes, the data of the 2 big guys was already clear. The exotic giant plate ray had an extra ability to swallow compared to the ordinary plate ray. It could strengthen its flesh and blood, spiritual energy, and strength by swallowing other creatures. And the mutant spider crab was also an exotic creature. It had one more ability than ordinary spider crabs, which was that it was fast and hard. Just like at this moment, when the crab's claws slashed out, a cold light burst out in the seawater. But the giant plate ray's tail knocked the surrounding small spider crabs and plate rays away. That wasn't the end yet. The giant plate ray took the opportunity to bite the crab's leg again and again. The crab's leg was directly bitten into 2. Han Fei thought it was over. In terms of combat power, the giant plate ray was stronger. But to his surprise, the mutant spider crab shot out its pincer and snapped the tail of the giant plate ray. Han Fei couldn't stay calm anymore. How could this giant pincer fly away so easily? How could it attack when it flew away? How the F*** could he take it back? But they had no time to think about it. Both sides seemed to be enraged, and both suffered great losses. Thus, he began to summon his underlings. The mountain-like spider crabs collapsed, and the plate rays quickly swam over from all directions. All of a sudden, they became turtles in a jar. Wenrinyu was ready to attack. Han Fei had an idea. "Don't panic. Dig a hole and run." Everyone was stunned. Digging a hole? Han Fei summoned the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. As a legendary mantis shrimp, Han Fei could kill it if it didn't know how to dig holes. 9-tailed mantis shrimp, dig a hole for me. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp was very excited when it first came out. How long has it been since it came out? However, when it saw the mountain-like spider crabs and the overwhelming number of plate rays, it didn't even let out a fart and immediately started digging. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp dug holes very fast. Back then, it had broken through layer after layer of the mine. Moreover, this seabed was not a mine, so it was a piece of cake for it. Han Fei shouted, "Keep up, keep up." Han Fei kicked Zhang Xuanyu into the hole. Now that the 9-tailed mantis shrimp was 5 or 6 meters tall, it was easy for him to dig a hole for 1 or 2 fatties. Luren Kwong was about to go in when he was stopped by Han Fei. The girls go first. Don't be in such a hurry. Luo Xiao Bai and Xia Xiaochan didn't say anything and quickly entered the hole, followed by Luren Kwong. Han Fei wandered at the entrance of the hole, staring at the mutant spider crabs and the giant plate rays. Forget it. He looked at one Rinyu behind him, gritted his teeth, and got into the hole. He had to admit that the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was a very strong player. It could dig holes, fight, control, and F***CK the sky. Han Fei was very satisfied. One Rinyu was surprised. Han Fei really knew how to choose contractual spiritual beasts. What kind of mantis shrimp is this? Not only does it have a tail, but it can also dig holes so fast. Within 10 minutes, it was already hundreds of meters away. Suddenly, one Rinyu's face changed greatly. There was something underground. She had no time to care about anything else. With a bang, the spider crabs exploded and rushed out. Underground, Han Fei, who was lagging behind, hadn't caught up with Luren Kwong and the others when something in the soil suddenly hit his stomach. In an instant, Han Fei was knocked away like a cannonball and broke out of the soil. He was smashed out of the crowd of spider crabs, vomiting a mouthful of blood. The crowd of spider crabs was in an uproar. What flew in? Han Fei was dumbfounded. A swarm of spider crabs pinched him with their pincers, and his spiritual energy protective cover was crushed after only 3 seconds. When those big pincers pinched him, Han Fei dashed out of the crowd of spider crabs. As a result, Han Fei bumped into Wen Rinyu. Wen Rinyu's face changed. Seeing that Han Fei could still swim with 5 spider crabs a few meters long hanging on him, she was greatly relieved. Follow me later. I'll go first. Wen Rinyu only said a few words before she rushed in the direction of Zhang Xuanyu and the others. Han Fei didn't look too good either. Something seemed to have happened up ahead. Han Fei hurried to find a hole, only to be whipped by an enormous crab leg when he was halfway through. Shoot! Han Fei twisted his body and barely dodged the crab leg. As it turned out, he was regarded as a dangerous person who sabotaged the internal stability of the spider crabs. Even the gigantic plate, Ray, was stunned. Just a moment ago, another leg of the mutant spider crab had been lost. On the body of the giant plate, Ray, 2 large wounds, several meters long, were torn open. Not caring if the mutant spider crab could understand him, Han Fei said telepathically, "Don't hit me. I'm your teammate. I'm here to help." Seeing that the mutant spider crab slightly paused, Han Fei immediately got rid of the spider crabs on him and launched the 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers. Clang, clang, clang. It was true that spiritual weapons were powerful, but it depended on the opponent's level. Han Fei discovered, to his shock, that the 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers were all stabbed into the crab's shell. Hiu. Han Fei hurried to recall the blue sea wandering dragon daggers and said telepathically, "Brother, would you believe me if I said that I hit the wrong person?" The mutant spider crab certainly wouldn't listen to that. "I've been stabbed 10 times by you, every blade piercing into my flesh. Now, you're telling me that you hit the wrong person? Damn it, you're so mean. I'm going to kill you." Seeing that the mutant spider crab's claws were coming at him, Han Fei rushed to the gigantic plate Ray at full speed. "Big Pot, I'm your ally. Hey, don't open your mouth. I'm grenade throwing." Immediately, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers were shot out again, leaving dozens of streaks of cold light in the seawater. Pooh! 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 The dozens of daggers pierced through the gigantic plate Ray and out of its back. Han Fei's eyes glittered. That's it. The gigantic plate Ray felt excruciating pain and was interrupted for a moment, but it was infuriated and sucked again. Han Fei sneered. "I can't stab that damn crab, but can I stab you?" The blue sea wandering dragon daggers pierced into the gigantic plate Ray's body again and stirred crab. In Han Fei's hand, a big seal smashed the gigantic plate Ray to the ground, raising waves of mud on the seabed. Han Fei grinned. "Do you think the water-stirring seal is useless? With the strength of 10,000 kilograms and my full strength strike, I can smash a hole in your body, even if you're a mountain." Behind him, The mutant spider crab had already waved its claws. Han Fei hurried to jump into the dust and summoned the demon purification pot. In the next moment, Han Fei rolled on the ground and dodged the attacks of the spider crabs with his hands and feet. Eventually, he dived into the cave and slipped away quickly. The mutant spider crab was dumbfounded. Where's the gigantic plate ray? Where's the fake teammate? Why is he gone? Han Fei ran forward crazily. I won't fight those with hard shells again. My spiritual weapon. But didn't penetrate. It wasn't until Han Fei ran thousands of meters away that he saw countless vines whipping a serpent. Xia Xiaochan appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Now and then, she cut long wounds on the serpent with her dagger. Lu Renquang's storm of knives and swords stirred the serpent, making clanking noises. Zhang Xuanyu, on the other hand, was lying on the ground, covered in blood, holding the vines and breathing hard. Chapter 220. Han Fei hurriedly cast the divine healing technique and poured out his spiritual energy. Han Fei asked, "How did it end up like this?" Zhang Xuanyu grinned at Han Fei and said telepathically, "Its caves are all down here. I walked ahead of it, so I should be the first one." Han Fei was also speechless, thinking that Zhang Xuanyu was not as sturdy as him. If it were a head-on battle outside, it would be hard to say. But in this underground cave, only God knew that there was a giant python in it. Seeing that Zhang Xuanyu slowed down, Han Fei rushed up with 2 knives. A string of data flashed in his eyes, and he was surprised. Name, Ghost Serpent. Introduction. It's mutated by absorbing the essence blood of a flood dragon. It has a single horn on its head and sword scales all over its body. It has a serpent pearl in its body, and its body is greatly strengthened. Level 34, quality, exotic, contains spiritual energy greater than 232 points. Effect, Serpent Pearl, collectible, Serpent Pearl, Ghost Horn, Python Tendon, Ghost Serpent Gallbladder, absorbable. It was the first time that Han Fei had seen such a valuable snake. Its body was full of treasures. The Serpent Pearl that could greatly strengthen one's body was worth fighting, not to mention the other treasures. Han Fei rushed up in an instant and launched a blade storm. Different from Lu Renquang's torrents of knives and swords, Lu Renquang's torrents of knives and swords were all messy, while the blade storm revolved in circles. Luo Xiaobai controlled the vines, trying to catch the ghost serpent. However, this thing was so slippery that it couldn't be trapped. Lu Renquang was a bit miserable. Because of his sturdy body and fierce attacks, he was regarded as the biggest threat by the ghost serpent. He didn't know how many times he had been sent flying. His chest was already stained with blood. Don't look at how this fatty usually hid when he encountered danger, but when it came to a real fight, he was extremely fierce. He used the bloodthirsty broadsword, 1,000-blade slash, and torrents of knives and swords. He also held a big shield. BM, Lu Renquang was sent flying again. This time, it was Han Fei's turn. With a spiritual weapon in hand, he directly cut the scales on the ghost serpent. Not far away, Wenren watched this scene quietly, staring at the knife in Han Fei's hand, deep in thought. Xia Xiaochan was able to tear apart the ghost serpent scales because Xia Xiaochan's instantaneous burst of strength was very powerful. Although Lu Renquang controlled countless swords and sabers, he didn't really play a big role. Although it looked like the ghost serpent was covered in cuts and bruises, it did not injure its core. Han Fei, on the other hand, simply crushed a large piece of the ghost serpent scales that were as sharp as swords like a meat grinder. In addition, in order to end the battle quickly, Han Fei let Little Black bite the ghost serpent's flesh when he chopped it up. Of course, because Wenren was here, he didn't dare to go too far. Otherwise, if the ghost serpent died on its own before they even started fighting, there would be a lot to talk about. But even so, the ghost serpent still rolled in the cave, and the huge force made it impossible for Lu Renquang to approach it. Luo Xiaobai said, "Be careful. It's going crazy. Kill it quickly." In the next moment, Han Fei took out his blue sea wandering dragon daggers, and Xia Xiaochan's red fire tricky lobster also entered the ghost serpent's body. Han Fei said anxiously, "Xia Xiaochan, don't burn it. This guy's entire body is a treasure. We have to bring him back." Xia Xiaochan was speechless. Are you going to eat it too? Han Fei shrugged. Not me. This kind of strange serpent must have a special bloodline. You can see it from its horn. Also, the snake gallbladder is super nutritious. How can I eat it if it's burnt? Xia Xiaochan snorted. I still have to eat it. She recalled the red-fire tricky lobster, which made Han Fei breathe a sigh of relief. He thought to himself, Little Black is still inside. What if I'm burned by you? At this time, Han Fei went all out. Before Xia Xiaochan could attack, he had to attack. Han Fei grabbed a sword scale and lay directly on the ghost serpent's body. Chilla! Scales were torn off one by Han Fei, and the ghost serpent bumped around in pain and circled in the cave. Han Fei sneered. I've killed a dragon eel before. You think I can't kill you? You can't beat me without the super high voltage of the dragon eel. Han Fei tore off the scales one by one, and he didn't care even if his palms were cut. It was only level 30, which wasn't enough to hurt him. After tearing off dozens of scales, Han Fei stirred the blue sea wandering dragon daggers inside, and the ghost serpent's momentum was greatly reduced. At this time, Lu Renquang stared at the ghost serpent's head and slashed it, and one of its eyes was poked blind. Xia Xiaochan was speechless. Damn fatty, hit the snake where it hurts. What's the use of slashing at its head? Xia Xiaochan stabbed the dagger into the snake's body. Then, the ghost serpent's scales propped up, and Xia Xiaochan gave up. But at this moment, Luo Xiaobai exerted her strength, and vines grew out of the ghost serpent's flesh and blood. After a while, the ghost serpent was finally dying, and everyone was so tired that they hugged the vines and gasped for breath. After a while, the ghost serpent was finally dying, and everyone was so tired that they held the vines and gasped for breath. Wenrinyu stepped over, glanced at them, waved her hand, and took the ghost serpent back. Turning her head, Wenrinyu said, This is the second time I've attacked. You all know Zhang Xuanyu's weakness. However, you ignored him. If I hadn't taken action, his life might have been in danger. As the saying goes, when I take action for the third time, this experience will be over. Everyone looked ashamed. Lu Renquang dragged his tired body and sat next to Zhang Xuanyu. I'll walk in front of you next time. Zhang Xuanyu smiled. That be asterisk Star wants to kill me? It's too early. If it weren't so sudden, it would have been beaten to the ground. Xia Xiaochan scoffed. Don't brag. Don't you feel ashamed? Teacher, is the gallbladder of the giant serpent useful to Zhang Xuanyu? Why don't we dig it out and get it to him? Wenrinyu raised her eyebrows. It's useful. However, the most useful part of the ghost serpent is not the gallbladder, but the serpent pearl. The serpent pearl can improve one's physique. Are you sure you want to give it to Zhang Xuanyu? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Yes. Xia Xiaochan said, Forget it. Give it to him. Look at how weak he is. Next time something happens, he won't be the first to be knocked down. Lu Renquang nodded. I'm okay with it. I have a shield. I'm not afraid. Han Fei shrugged. I'm okay with it, too. Seeing that everybody was united, Wenrinyu finally looked better. She extended her hand, and a green pearl appeared in her hand. Wenrinyu said, The serpent pearl contains a trace of the flood dragon bloodline. Within an hour of eating it, your body will be as hot as fire. Fortunately, this ghost serpent isn't level 40, or you would have exploded. Zhang Xuanyu accepted the serpent pearl and said apologetically, Well, thank you, everyone. Lu Renquang clapped his hands. We're brothers. What are you thanking us for? Just eat it. Although Han Fei's divine healing technique had almost healed his wounds, Zhang Xuanyu's internal organs were seriously damaged. It would take at least a few hours to heal him with the divine healing technique. Therefore, Zhang Xuanyu swallowed the serpent pearl without any hesitation. Everybody stared at each other, wondering how the serpent pearl improved one's physique. At first, Zhang Xuanyu didn't show any reaction. After about 10 seconds, Zhang Xuanyu's face became redder and redder. After 100 seconds, he had become red all over, and his body was smoking. At this moment, Zhang Xuanyu gripped the vines, gritting his teeth and clutching the vines with both hands. The veins on his arms and neck were bulging, as if he were enduring excruciating pain. Lu Renquang shivered. How painful is this? Han Fei patted his belly. You're a man. Why are you afraid of pain? You're tough. Xia Xiaochan chuckled. Next time there's a ghost serpent, I'll give you the serpent pearl. Han Fei blinked with a smile. That's exactly what I wanted. Unfortunately, there isn't one. Half a minute later, the power of the serpent pearl seemed to have reached a peak. Zhang Xuanyu's hair was all standing up, and the seawater within 10 meters became boiling hot. Han Fei even controlled the seawater around him to change some cold water from time to time to make him feel more comfortable. Wenrinyu said, "This is no pain at all. There are many things in this world that are more intense than this." Han Fei shuddered when he remembered the scene in the hexagon starfish. He didn't want to experience it again. It was too horrible. 2 hours passed. Zhang Xuanyu collapsed on the ground and looked at everyone helplessly. Let me take a break. Chapter 221. Everyone stopped, and Luo Xiaobai asked, "Teacher, is it the breeding season for spider crabs? Why do they appear near the territory of the sandworms?" Lu Renquang also rubbed his head. Yes, the spider crabs that have just molted are soft and can't even be eaten by the sandworms. Wenrinyu smiled. Do you really think the spider crabs are stupid? There must be a reason why they come here to molt. After molting, the spider crabs need a lot of food. Not all of these spider crabs will shed their shells. Only the female spider crabs will shed their shells. The male spider crabs will hunt for clam worms after the female spider crabs shed their shells. Every creature has its own way of survival. You still have a lot to learn. Han Fei nodded. So we just happened to run into them. Lu Renquang added, if we had known this, we might as well have gone down from the sea willows at the beginning. Although there are many vines, at least it's not like here, where there's no way out. Han Fei said generously, in the future, we still have a lot of time to go into the water. This is only the level 2 fishery. If you don't even dare to go down here, how can you expect to go to the S3? 3? Did you go down to the fishery outside the 2? Wenrinyu agreed with him this time. Han Fei is right. For you in the future, these are just small things. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. In fact, there are no treasures in the deep sea jungle. What is it like? The ordinary things in your eyes are treasures in the eyes of ordinary fishermen. There are exotic creatures here, but few people have the ability to catch them. Those who can catch them will disdain to do so. That's the logic. All the best resources are in the hands of the strong. Han Fei and the others couldn't agree more. At the very least, for someone like Wenrinyu, the clamworms, the ghost serpents, and the enormous plate rays were all vegetables that he could kill with a single stab of his finger. At this moment, Han Fei was more and more convinced that only the stone forest and the fiery mountain might have real benefits in the level 2 fishery. The stone forest was sealed, so the fiery mountain should be ranked first for a reason. As for the deep sea jungle and the piercing electricity zone, they were actually not a problem for the strong. If they could get the soul resistance pearls, others could naturally get them too. Therefore, in a certain sense, they had at most made up for the gap between themselves and others, and could not be considered to have surpassed others. Zhang Xuanyu had rested enough. Lines appeared on his body, and it seemed that his strength had increased significantly. Can you do it? Zhang Xuanyu patted his chest. Great. Not only that, I feel that I'm only one step away from becoming an intermediate great fishing master. Han Fei couldn't help but click his tongue. Zhang Xuanyu's progress was not slow. It had only been 3 months since the Blue Sea Arena, and he was about to become an intermediate great fishing master. This time, everyone directly passed through the water and did not encounter any special obstacles. The unsightly sea urchins and sea snakes couldn't stop them at all. Soon, they saw a huge tree. Yes, there was more than one in the surroundings, but every single one of them was 100 meters tall and took up an area of close to 500 meters. This was the biggest tree he had ever seen. Therefore, if it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't open his mouth, he would definitely exclaim in surprise. Looking down from above with a fishing hook, he didn't feel anything. But at this moment, it was simply breathtaking. The thousands of willows rippled with the waves, and each willow branch had a large or small wooden fish hanging on it. And the wooden fish often bumped into each other, making a dong-dong-dong sound. Han Fei had no doubt that if there were bells hanging on it, this tree would be called a bell tree. Not only Han Fei, but the others were also stunned. Lurenquang was curious. Those wooden fish really know how to stick out their tongues. Are they alive or dead? Luo Xiaobai nodded. They should be controlled by the sea willows. Xia Xiaochan exclaimed, "This is so beautiful. Why is there light on the tree?" Yes, everyone noticed it. In the dark bottom of the sea, any flash was extremely dazzling. At this moment, there were flashes on those sea willows like the stars in the night sky, but not as many as the stars. On each tree, there were about 100 spots of light. Han Fei was overjoyed. It's the wood's spiritual fruit, which contains several times more spiritual energy than ordinary spiritual fruits. It can enhance the human body's affinity with plants. The fruit core can calm people down and enhance cultivation. It's a good thing. Xia Xiaochan asked, "How do you know?" Han Fei explained, "I read the encyclopedia of spiritual plants before. It said that the divine tree in the sea produces wood spiritual fruit. At first, I didn't think that the divine tree was talking about the sea willows." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Let me try." The forest could be regarded as Luo Xiaobai's world. Almost without her deliberately, vines immediately stretched out from all directions, like countless tentacles, trying to climb up the tree trunk from the seabed soil. But before she climbed up the tree trunk, Luo Xiaobai's face changed, and she hurriedly said, "This tree has consciousness." As soon as Luo Xiaobai finished speaking, everyone saw a cloud of dust flying. The soil was broken open, and countless vines entangled together, tearing each other. Luo Xiaobai said, "Han Fei, give me spiritual energy." Han Fei stepped on a spirit-gathering array and injected spiritual energy into Luo Xiaobai's body. Luo Xiaobai's eyes were listless, and she was angry for a moment. Gradually, only the whites of her eyes were left. But the vines around were going crazy, like bamboo shoots after a rain, emerging one after another and growing rapidly. At first, it was just a contest between the vines, but then the movement became louder and louder. Gradually, Han Fei and the others found that the soil under their feet was breaking and vines stretched out from under the soil. Xiaobai's vines are flower vines, and these dry and dark ones are tree vines. The four of them attacked at the same time, and the tree vines were cut off as soon as they came out. But there were still countless tree vines attacking from all directions. Han Fei said, "Not only tree vines, but also roots. Such a big tree has countless roots. You guys block it. Let me have a try. What the hell is this sea willow?" Then Han Fei threw out his fishing rod. The fish hook turned into a water vein, like a slender spring, and quickly approached the glowing place. But halfway through, it was discovered by those willows. As a result, all the wooden fish on the tree began to move. This movement was really eye-opening. What do you mean I can vomit until your scalp is numb? These wooden fish swished wildly, as if there were arrows in their mouths. Han Fei's plan failed. He couldn't pass through it all. Those arrow-like tongues almost blocked all Han Fei's way. Even the blood spider silk was pulled apart again, and Han Fei's fishing rod lost its hook again. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. It seems that it's time to replace this lousy fishing rod. How many times will a fishing rod of this level break in the future? Seeing that Yi Xiaoyu was about to attack in stealth mode, Han Fei grabbed her. It's useless. Those wooden fish seem to be able to feel the pulse of the water. Your stealth is ineffective against them. Zhang Xuanyu scratched his head. It seems to have nothing to do with me. Han Fei asked, "Then what if you encounter this situation?" Zhang Xuanyu shrugged. "What can I do? Hit it. As long as I'm strong enough. It's not impossible to destroy thousands of willow branches with one strike. No, I have to try." With that, Zhang Xuanyu launched the 7-layered waves in Furious Sea. However, at this moment, Zhang Xuanyu was much more powerful. The powerful strike set off huge waves at the bottom of the sea. However, under this blow, less than 20 willow branches were destroyed. The rest were at most knocked away by the wooden fish. At most, there were no more than 50 branches. Zhang Xuanyu stepped back, looking embarrassed. After all, those willow branches are soft. My rod is not as sharp as a knife. Lurenquang nodded. Then let me try. Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu nodded. Han Fei discovered that armorists were not just meat shields. In the sea, they were even more versatile than Luo Xiaobai. The explosive power of armorists might not be as good as that of hunters and soul warriors, but their group combat ability was very strong. As soon as he attacked, thousands of knife shadows appeared. Of course, there were not many armorists who could reach Lu Renquang's level. Normal armorists could only use the weapons in the armor box. Ordinary people couldn't catch the thousand-blade tortoise at all. With Lu Renquang's attack, the sky was full of knife light and sword shadows. Although it looked messy, when it was used as a meat grinder, who cared if it looked good or not? For a moment, countless willow branches were crushed, causing the vines of this tree to suddenly stagnate. Han Fei's eyes lit up. Game, the strength of the willow branches is not high. However, as soon as he said so, countless wooden fish suddenly began to collide with each other, making a dong-dong-dong sound. At first, this kind of collision sound seemed to be nothing. However, when a tree began to collide, other nearby trees also began to collide. For a time, the entire water area was filled with the sound of knocking. Puff! Luo Xiaobai suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood and said with a pale face, "Retreat." Chapter 222. Although the crowd did not know what was going on, they immediately began to retreat. "Little White, what's wrong?" Luo Xiaobai said telepathically, "It's very strong. I just tried to compete for the consciousness of this sea willow, but I encountered extremely strong resistance. However, I also control a part of it. Those lights aren't treasures, they're just a disguise." Xia Xiaochan asked, "What disguise?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Of all the lights, only one is a real spiritual fruit. But that's not the problem right now. The sound of the wooden fish is getting stronger and stronger." By the time Luo Xiaobai finished, the thumping sound had become rhythmic. This was different from the wooden fish struck by the monk. When these trees struck the wooden fish, it actually created ripples at the bottom of the water. Moreover, the ripples were getting faster and faster, and the power of the ripples was getting stronger and stronger. Boom! Finally, a dong sound erupted almost at the same time. It was like rolling thunder, and the ripples were as turbulent as knives, directly sweeping toward everyone. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Spiritual energy protective cover. Without any delay, they immediately activated their spiritual energy protective covers, which looked like 5 glowing bodies. Bang! The 5 of them flew out almost at the same time, and their protective covers burst at the same time. Zhang Xuanyu was shocked. "No way. He's that strong?" Lu Renquang said. "My knives were all knocked away." Xia Xiaochan asked, "How can we break through this wide-range attack?" For some reason, Han Fei suddenly thought of the scene he saw on the rock-holding turtle steel, where a stick smashed a huge wave. "Hurry up! Break the surface with a single point." Before everyone could understand what it meant to break the surface with a single point, another ripple rolled over. This time, the sound was uniform. The sound of the wooden fish striking against each other was like a great bell. Chi waves rose up, as if they wanted to slaughter all the enemies in the surroundings. Han Fei's face darkened, and dozens of blue sea wandering dragon daggers stabbed at one point of the ripples like arrows. Puffed! With one point broken, that ripple seemed to have smashed open a hole, and the ripple immediately rolled past everyone's bodies. Lu Renquang's eyes lit up. "That's impressive. You can do that?" Han Fei smiled bitterly. "It's actually the ripples caused by the airwaves. As long as he could break through that layer of qi, everything would be fine. More importantly, we have to think of a way to kill our way in. The sea willow protects its fruit within and without. That fruit must be something extraordinary. It's definitely worth the trip." Zhang Xuanyu said, "I'm good at breaking the surface with a single point. I can block the ripples. But how do we get the fruit?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Only Lu Renquang and Han Fei are suitable. Quang's knife array is too messy. Don't accidentally smash the fruit. I'll go. You're not as fast as me. You clear the obstacles, and I pick the fruits." Han Fei nodded. With that said, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan swam out when the wave of attacks was over. 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers were revolving around them. This was Han Fei's strategy. Although he didn't seem to have grasped the true usage of spiritual tools, it was still relatively easy for him to crush those wooden fish tongues. Therefore, in everyone's eyes, Han Fei seemed to have become a spinning top. Boom! The ripples exploded again. But this time, it didn't shake Han Fei. Han Fei drilled a hole in the huge ripples. Along the way, thousands of tongues shot out, but they couldn't stop such a meat grinder at all. And Xia Xiaochan, in order to save energy, sat directly on Han Fei and let Han Fei take her with him. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "Why don't you hold me? Why do you look like you're sitting?" Xia Xiaochan scoffed. "Cut the crap. Hurry up." When Han Fei completely rushed into the dense willow branches, the 7 chains behind him quickly shot out and pierced the trunk of the sea willow. At this moment, Han Fei looked like a sea monster with a strange shape. Although he was too small compared to the sea willow, this didn't prevent him from shuttling through the willow branches. At this moment, Han Fei passed by a glowing spiritual fruit. When he approached it, he found that it was a golden fruit. And it was not the fruit that was glowing, but the fruit was wrapped in a layer of pale, golden spiritual energy. Xia Xiaochan was about to take action when she heard Han Fei say, "It's fake." Xia Xiaochan paused and sat on Han Fei again. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. There was no data, so of course it was fake. He directly smashed this fake fruit and continued to the next one. Doing this repeatedly, Han Fei was like a spinning top jumping in the willow branches, which surprised everyone. Zhang Xuanyu looked at Lu Renquang. "Next time, you should also sort out your messy knives and swords. If you can wrap thousands of knives and let them spin around you, you can drill through this sea willow." Lu Renquang scratched his belly. He was a little tempted. This kind of fighting method was indeed very strong. He was almost armed to the teeth. Luo Xiaobai said, "To deal with this kind of attack, unless we use brute force, there is no chance to fight it head-on. When these billions of knocks are coordinated, the power is really terrifying. If these sea willows don't attack in a wide range, we can't break them at all." Suddenly, Luo Xiaobai said to him, "Be careful, stay vigilant. The impact of the wooden fish is getting stronger and stronger." At this moment, Han Fei had smashed half of the fake fruits. Just when he was about to continue in this way, many wooden fish swam towards him. "Huh? What do you mean?" Bam! 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 Countless wooden fish around Han Fei exploded one after another. 1 or 2 couldn't shake him at all, but hundreds of them were exploding crazily at him. How could he stand it? Luo Xiaobai and the others' faces changed drastically. Not good, help. Without Luo Xiaobai's order, Lu Renquang had already activated the torrents of knives and swords and rushed out, followed by Zhang Xuanyu. A group of people joined the battle. Luo Xiaobai tried to fight with this sea willow again. Han Fei's pressure was greatly reduced, and the gyroscopic knife array was back on track again. He looked back. He was afraid that they wouldn't be able to hold on for long, especially Luo Xiaobai, who had to fight with such a big tree. He activated the Wandering Dragon art. Han Fei sprinted quickly. This was just a sea willow. As far as the eye could see, there were 4 or 5 of them. If the 5 of them couldn't even take down a sea willow, how could they deal with the rest? Just when Han Fei quickly approached a glowing spiritual fruit, he found that this spiritual fruit was dodging with the willow branches. A string of data appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Wood spiritual fruit. This is a spiritual fruit born from the essence of the sea willow for 100 years. Eating it can enhance the affinity with spiritual plants and greatly enhance spiritual power. The spiritual fruit contains a wood spiritual bead, which can be worn for a long time to calm the mind and improve the efficiency of cultivation. Spirit level high quality. 29,216 points. Han Fei said to her via voice transmission, "This is it." Xia Xiaochan suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of the wood spiritual fruit in the next second. She cut off the willow branches and picked the wood spiritual fruit. BM, BM, BM. The sound of self-explosion continued, and Xia Xiaochan quickly flashed again and sat on Han Fei's body again. The sea willow seemed to be angry. It gave up attacking Lu Renquang and the others and all the willow branches swept at Han Fei. In the blink of an eye, there were only dense willow branches in front of Han Fei. Although they failed to trap Han Fei could only drill holes in these willow branches. Rumble. While everyone was stunned, a huge roar burst out from the intertwined willow branches. Thousands of wooden fish exploded at the same time, blasting Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan out. Han Fei, who was flying in the water, was blackened all over and coughing up blood. Xia Xiaochan, on the other hand, flashed 100 meters away, which made Han Fei very excited. It would be great if she could teleport. Han Fei shouted, "Retreat first!" They retreated for more than 10 kilometers, and the roar of the Great Bell was still not over. Everyone gathered around. Lu Renquang asked, "Is this the wood spiritual fruit?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes. It's a pity that we only got one after such a long time. Xiaobai can eat it first. Xiaobai is the only manipulator here. Maybe after eating it, we can communicate with these sea willows and ask them to drop a few more on their own initiative. In this way, we don't have to fight them." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "That should be impossible. These sea willows have a very strong sense of resistance and seem to have a certain degree of spirituality." Han Fei said, "Let's try it. If it doesn't work, we'll continue to pick them the old way. We'll stay here for a few days at most, and we'll be able to pick them again." Wenren, you listen in the distance. That's because you have a tough body and Xia Xiaochan's flashing ability. If you were someone else, you would have been blown up long ago. How could you pick the fruit? But Han Fei and the others didn't think so. Since they could pick them, why not pick more? They couldn't miss such a good thing if they could get it. Cell phone website. Chapter 223. Others might not believe it. After the 5 of them ran away, they sat down again and played fish dragon cards. In the second most dangerous place in the level 2 fishery, they were so unscrupulous and arrogant. 2 hours later, Luo Xiaobai nodded. "I'm ready." During these 2 hours, Luo Xiaobai was crazily absorbing and refining the wood spiritual fruit. Maybe for Han Fei, 30,000 points of spiritual energy were nothing. But for Luo Xiaobai, this was a lot. Her upper limit of spiritual energy was less than 2,000 points. Therefore, she could only borrow 30,000 points of spiritual energy to strengthen herself, temper her body, and enhance her control of spiritual plants. At this time, Luo Xiaobai's aura improved a bit, and she looked much more energetic. Xia Xiaochan asked, "Are you a peak-level intermediate great fishing master?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "Not so fast. However, the effect of this wood spiritual fruit is really great. The spiritual energy can only help me take a big step forward in the realm of intermediate great fishing masters. And what's really effective is the spiritual plant affinity. I feel that I can barely control the seaweeds around me now. Maybe I could try to compete with the sea willow again." Zhang Xuanyu was doubtful. "Can you? The sea willow is so big." Luren Quang nodded. "Yes. Let's fight. Fight, fight, fight. We can always get one for each of us to eat." Han Fei was speechless. "So it's not you who's going to grab the fruit?" Han Fei asked. "Does the sea willow have consciousness?" "You can ask them. Anyway, they can bear one every 100 years. We just want one each. Maybe they will give us some." Puff! Zhang Xuanyu and Luren Quang were speechless. "What do you mean they can bear one every 100 years? That's 100 years. You make it sound like it's 100 days. However, Luo Xiaobai nodded. "I'll try." After a while, they came again. This time, it was a sea willow. Before they even got close, the wooden fish had already begun to hit the wooden fish with a dong-dong-dong sound. Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Let me do it." Luo Xiaobai squatted down, pressed one hand on the ground, and a slender vine extended out and soon entangled with the roots of the sea willow. Luo Xiaobai's eyes turned white again, and she squatted on the ground motionlessly, as if she was really communicating with the sea willow. Han Fei exclaimed, "This ability is so useful. If he became stronger in the future, would he be able to control these sea willows? Or find something like the sea willow tree? It might not be a bad idea to contract it." Xia Xiaochan rolled her eyes. "Do you think it's easy to find a contractual spiritual plant? Are you trying to defy the heavens with such a huge contracted spiritual plant?" Han Fei chuckled. Big is good. Think about it. When you're fighting with someone, if you put such a huge contracted spirit plant outside, you won't even need to use your own hands. You'll be able to crush your opponent to death. Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang were speechless as they talked about this boring topic. What's wrong with Han Fei's brain? His imagination is boundless. A moment later, Luo Xiaobai suddenly staggered, giving everyone a fright. Xia Xiaochan shouted, Xiaobai, what do you think? Luo Xiaobai's face was pale. She shook her head and said, although it's conscious, it's very troublesome to communicate with it. However, it doesn't seem to want to give it to us, and it won't give it to us. It probably wants us to leave. Lu Renkuang said in shock, so, are you really talking to this tree? Oh my god, you're amazing. Han Fei snorted. If it doesn't want to give it to us, we'll just rob it. Since we're already here, why won't it give it to us? I don't want to hurt our friendship, so I'm talking to them for their sake. Do you really think we're afraid? Luo Xiaobai hugged her vines and gasped. If you want to rob them, make it quick. I suspect there are greater dangers behind these sea willows. Luo Xiaobai said, when I was communicating with the sea willow just now, I seemed to perceive a very powerful spiritual plant, much stronger than these sea willows. Han Fei asked, can we rob that very powerful spiritual plant? Luo Xiaobai rolled her eyes. No. Han Fei shrugged and put on a serious face. It's not easy to rob four at once. Can you hold on with your spiritual energy? Lu Renkuang said directly, no. Zhang Xuanyu shook his head. One is enough for me. Han Fei complained. Then just use your trump card. Fatty, don't you want to keep your armor art covered in dust? Xiaobai, don't you need to test your death substitute technique? Zhang Xuanyu, I haven't seen you use your mystic killing rod. Do you want to keep it a rod? Only after hearing Han Fei's words did everyone realize that they had subconsciously ignored the combat skills that they had prepared to save for their lives. Xia Xiaochan nodded. Let's try it. Han Fei asked, what are you going to try? Your supreme stab is obviously used for assassination. You can fight one-on-one, but you have to let them fight one-on-one. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Okay, let's try it. I'll rush in first to attract their attention. Lu Renkuang nodded. After you use the death substitute technique, I'll follow. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan will take the opportunity to pick the fruits. Zhang Xuanyu nodded. I'll attack from the other side and create obstacles for the sea willows. Everyone talked at once and came up with a plan, which gave Wenrinyu a headache. However, she also felt somewhat gratified. This was what a team should be like. Luo Xiaobai quickly swam to this sea willow. At the same time, thousands of vines burst out and attacked directly. The vines intertwined and turned into a huge claw, grabbing at the tree. The sea willow's reaction was not slow. Sensing the abnormal movement of the water, thousands of willow branches gathered and pressed down on the vine giant claw. Violent explosions. Jia roared. A figure came out from the violent explosion. A figure flew out of the explosion. But when everyone took a closer look, a big flower bud grew on a vine hundreds of meters away in the blink of an eye, and Luo Xiaobai walked out of the flower bud. Luo Xiaobai shouted, attack. Lu Renkuang was unusually solemn, and the armor box was rattling. Swish, swish, 5 knives cut through the air in an instant. One went straight, and the other 4 circled around, extremely fast. The 5 blades advanced together, forming a beautiful cross in the sea. Wherever they passed, willow branches would break and wooden fish would be sent flying. Even the explosion of the wooden fish couldn't shake it. Han Fei shot out like lightning, activated fury, fused with little black and little white, and attached with a 9-tailed mantis shrimp. And Xia Xiaochan flickered and clung to Han Fei. At that moment, Han Fei was as fast as lightning, cutting through the sea, and wherever he passed, the fake golden fruits burst into pieces. However, Han Fei misjudged the temperament of Little Black and Little White. As soon as they created an opportunity for Han Fei, the chains behind Han Fei burst out, and his body almost turned into a stream of light in the sea. Even Wenrinyu was shocked to see this scene. At this moment, Han Fei was very strong. At this time, Han Fei won a huge gap for Xia Xiaochan. Her figure flashed, and a golden fruit had been cut off by Han Fei. But he didn't stop. Like a drill, the million-knife art quickly attacked the next sea willow. Luo Xiaobai ordered, "Keep up." When they arrived at the second willow, Han Fei had already entered it. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. Is this guy crazy? He rushed in just like that. Luo Xiaobai ordered, "The plan has changed. You could do whatever you want. Liren Kuang, go in and attract the attacks." Liren Kuang's face was black. Why is it always the two of us? It seems that Han Fei and I are in the same boat. Armor crisscross. Thousand blade slash. Liren Kuang held his big shield and rushed out, resisting those violent explosions. He said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "Slow down. My spiritual energy is running out." Not only Liren Kuang's spiritual energy was running out, but Luo Xiaobai, who was controlling the vines all over the sky, was also running out of spiritual energy. After all, not everyone could launch a big move all the time. When Xia Xiaochan got the second with spiritual fruit, Han Fei still didn't stop and continued to rush to the next one. Luo Xiaobai said to him via voice transmission, "Han Fei, slow down. We need to replenish our spiritual energy." Han Fei paused. When he was about to rush into the third sea willow, he suddenly fell to the bottom of the sea in the middle, stepped on a spirit gathering array, and swam upside down towards the sea willow. Spiritual energy gushed out his hands and shot directly into Luo Xiaobai and Liren Kuang's bodies. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. What the hell is this? Can a spirit gathering art be used like this? Xia Xiaochan's face changed drastically at this moment. Not good. The roar is coming again. Bam! Under the huge ripples, Luo Xiaobai was blown away. She had just entangled with the third sea willow, and before she could launch an attack, she was shaken away and vomited blood again. Liren Kuang was slightly better. The outer layer of the thousand-blade slash was broken, but the armor crisscross was still active. Seeing that Han Fei didn't dodge but crashed into the ripples, Xia Xiaochan immediately said to him via voice transmission, "Idiot, are you crazy?" With that, Xia Xiaochan flashed and blocked in front of Han Fei. She seemed to gather all her spiritual energy and stab the ripples with the supreme stab. But Xia Xiaochan herself was also knocked away by the ripples, and the cooperation between the two was directly interrupted. Han Fei didn't care at all and passed through the opening made by Xia Xiaochan. Others didn't know that there were no fake fruits in Han Fei's eyes, only real fruits. Puff! When this wood spiritual fruit was picked, Han Fei felt that his mind was stabbed, and a strange power directly broke into his spirit. Cell phone. Chapter 224. Han Fei's face changed slightly. Soul attack? This blow made Han Fei sober up a lot of his madness and bloodthirst. The bloodthirsty Wang was no longer so strong. Han Fei wanted to send a voice transmission to Zhang Xuanyu, asking him to resist this soul attack. But he still couldn't control his body. Although he was already a great fishing master, he still couldn't control Little Black and Little White. Fortunately, Zhang Xuanyu was very sensitive to soul attacks. He immediately changed his face. Xia Xiaochan, go and help. Luo Xiaobai and Liren Kuang were hit by the airwaves again and had both retreated. Zhang Xuanyu glared, and the bloodthirsty shark suddenly appeared behind him. He stood on the back of the bloodthirsty mad shark, his eyes bloodshot. Soul explosion. Rumble. In the air, an invisible energy suddenly erupted. Zhang Xuanyu was nailed into the mud at the bottom of the sea like a cannonball. Xia Xiaochan's face changed drastically. Han Fei, come back. Wondering you had already appeared next to this sea willow, and the sword grass branches around her were ready to be launched. The current result was still acceptable to her, but if that thing came out, she would have to take action. Han Fei had rushed into the branches of the fourth sea willow at this moment. Let him come out now? How was that possible? The target was close at hand. Although all the wooden fish along the way were exploding and the protective cover broke again and again, the gains were far better than the costs. Spirit gathering, water, thickening technique. Han Fei was surrounded by surging spiritual energy, and the seawater around him suddenly seemed to become viscous. At that moment, When Han Fei was about to grab the spiritual fruit, he saw a little person emerging from the mud at the bottom of the sea. Yes, a person. Han Fei was horrified and almost subconsciously turned his body. Immediately after, a branch suddenly whipped the path he had just taken. Han Fei's back was covered in a cold sweat. He saw a tree man, a human-sized tree man, raising his hand, a tree trunk-like hand, waving at him. Han Fei glanced at Wenrinyu and looked at the wood's spiritual fruit again. Universe slash. In an instant, a knife cut through the air and Han Fei grabbed the spiritual fruit. But at this time, the branch appeared again, whipping directly at Han Fei. BM! Another cannonball smashed into the mud, and Han Fei felt his internal organs churning. What the hell is that little tree man? Outside. Roar! A dragon roar echoed. Needless to say, Xiao Shaochan had summoned the giant arowana. Han Fei vomited blood. When he crawled out of the pit, he saw the huge body of the giant arowana roaring at the little treeman. Xiao Shaochan rarely used the giant arowana. With a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar, turbulence was set off at the bottom of the sea, and the sound waves were no weaker than the roar of the wooden fish. However, the tiny treant covered its forehead with its tree-like hand and opened its mouth at the giant arowana. In everyone's eyes, the moment the little treant roared, Xiao Shaochan suddenly appeared behind it. There was a dazzling spiritual light on the shovel. The attack pierced through the little treant. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They had actually killed him. This little treant was too strange. How could a tree look like a human? But before they were relieved, Xiao Shaochan flew back. In the next second, the branch seemed to appear out of thin air and fell in front of Xiao Shaochan. Dodge! However, as soon as Xiao Shaochan dodged it with a flash, she found that a branch had appeared next to her again. Bang! Xiao Shaochan was whipped away and also vomited blood. This surprised everyone. For the first time in a battle, Xiao Shaochan was injured because she couldn't keep up with the speed. Han Fei jumped out of the pit and caught Xiao Shaochan. At the same time, he shot the blue sea wandering dragon daggers at the tiny treant. Clank, 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 crack. Han Fei saw a branch being chopped off and heard a squeaking sound coming from the seawater. He didn't know whether it was crying or aggrievement, but it was very noisy. Wenrinyu, who was about to take action, exclaimed in surprise. Was the tiny treant scared? Han Fei hadn't canceled the fusion yet, but Fury didn't have much time left. He cast the divine healing technique on Xiao Shaochan and rushed at the tiny treant with the most barbaric scar of war shadows. At the same time, Han Fei held the water-stirring seal in his hand. A branch suddenly grew out of the tiny treant's hands. Peepa! BM! Han Fei was lashed into the soil again, and the water-stirring seal failed to block it. But Wenrinyu saw clearly that Han Fei had grabbed the branch of the tiny treant. Although his entire hand was dripping with blood, he had managed to grab hold of it. BM! The water-stirring seal grew dozens of meters long again and smashed at the tiny treant. At the same time, Han Fei pulled the branch and shot the blue sea wandering dragon daggers at the tiny treant again. But as soon as he turned his head, Han Fei felt a huge force break free from his hand, and the tiny treant drilled into the soil. Did it slip away? A thought flashed in Han Fei's mind. Don't come again, or I'll be whipped to death. Han Fei scratched his head in shock and looked up, only to find that Wenrinyu had approached him. Han Fei wondered, Teacher, are you going to help? Wenrinyu took a deep look at Han Fei. Let's go. One with spiritual fruit is enough for each of us. That tiny treant is not something you can catch. Is it very strong? Wenrinyu shook her head. It is the only unusual creature in the deep-sea jungle. You all know Xiao Bai's death substitute. This tiny treant can also do that, and it can die for you continuously. Someone once tried to kill it, but failed. Xiao Shaochan asked, Teacher, even you can't do it? Wenrinyu shook her head. Sometimes, strength doesn't mean everything, especially for some strange creatures. Unfortunately, Han Fei was far away just now, so he didn't see any data in his eyes. He really didn't know what this tiny treant was. However, this tiny treant was too arrogant. It even forbade him to come again. Han Fei thought to himself, I'll come again in a few years. If this tiny treant didn't appear, it would be fine, but now that it did, Han Fei felt that there must be a secret in this place that no one had discovered. Unfortunately, this exploration was probably going to end here. In the end, if Wenrinyu hadn't come, it would be hard to say what would have happened. Xia Xiaochan wondered. I just stabbed it, but it seemed to be stuck in wood. It didn't seem to have any reaction. Han Fei shrugged. Trants don't have hearts. The battle stopped, and all 5 of them were injured one after another. This was still the level 2 fishery. For a moment, everyone could only look at each other. Zhang Xuanyu shook his head slightly. Stop watching. Let's go. Luren Kuang also said, let's go back. I want to eat hot pot. Han Fei thought of something. By the way, that fiery mountain, Wenrinyu snorted coldly. What fiery mountain? Let's go back to town. Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. It's time to go back. I need some time to digest. Luren Kuang agreed. I'm going back to have a good sleep. I'm swollen from soaking in the water every day. Han Fei said disdainfully, don't make excuses for your weight. You are just fat. Luren Kuang scoffed. Although you have lost a lot of weight, you are about the same size as me now. Han Fei, on the sea. Han Fei was scooping up a lot of kelp, and he also led the others to find some jellyfish. Anyway, he stuffed everything that could be stuffed into his sea-swallowing seashell. He stuffed everything into Wenrin's sea-swallowing seashell. He caught hundreds of sea urchins. In the end, he even wanted to catch 2 turtles. Wenrinyu's face was black. Han Fei, that's enough. Take off. Han Fei and Luren Kuang shouted at the same time. Teacher, don't worry. We're almost there. Wenrinyu is helpless. I don't have enough space. Han Fei said, it's okay. Teacher, we still have cabins. Wenrinyu, ignoring Han Fei, they didn't set off to return to the Blue Sea town until this guy filled up the fish cabin. On the way, Han Fei asked, Teacher, why can't we go to the fiery mountain? Wenrinyu said flatly across the boat, you'll know when the time comes. Anyway, we've been to the most dangerous places in the level 2 fishery except the fiery mountain, and we've got all the opportunities we deserve. In the future, I need to properly digest it. On the surface, Wenrinyu was very calm, but in fact, she hadn't been calm in the past 2 months. This group of children was too good at tormenting. Not only did they catch exotic creatures, but they also dug up the nest of the Blue Sea Wandering Dragon. Of the 4 widely recognized forbidden areas of the level 2 fishery, they went to 3 of them. Not to mention the piercing electricity zone and the deep sea jungle. The sky-holding turtle alone almost shocked her. At this time, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly asked, Han Fei, can I have a look at the stick you pulled out? Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu contemptuously and said, I've decided to use a stick now. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. You make it sound like I'm going to rob you. Although you pulled it out, you can't carry it. Han Fei nodded. I'll be able to carry it sooner or later. At the same time, Chapter 225. When they returned to the Thug Academy, it was getting late, and Old Bai and Xiao Zhan were making hot pot. Before the hot pot was heated, the 2 of them began to drink. As the 2 of them were drinking, they suddenly raised their heads and saw Wenrinyu walking through the air toward them. It's Xiao Zhan's turn next time. Xiao Zhan said in surprise. You're back so soon? Wenrinyu said gloomily. How long do you want me to stay on the sea? Xiao Zhan quickly put down the wine glass. Wait, have they learned spiritual perception? Wenrinyu sneered. Spiritual perception? Your good students have been to all the places except the fiery mountain. They even released the rock-holding turtle. Don't you know anything about it in the town? Puff. Rock-holding turtle. Old Bai's eyes almost popped out. He said in shock, the stone forest? Wenrinyu narrowed her eyes. Do you know there are rock-holding turtles in the stone forest? Old Bai shook his head. How would I know? It's just a legend, but no one has seen it. You've all been there. The stone forest is a maze with a seal. No one knows what it suppresses. The great fishing masters who went in almost died of suffocation. Those who came out were all lucky. How would I know there were really rock-holding turtles in it? Xiao Zhan stood up curiously. So, did you see the rock-holding turtle? Did the boulder on its back really record a magical combat skill? Wenrinyu's face darkened. I didn't see it. That rock-holding turtle was stronger than me. The five of them watched it for a while. However, they only saw a few pictures. You can ask them about the details. They should be here by now. As soon as Wenrin said that, Lu Rinquang's wailing voice came from the door. I smell hot pot. I'm so happy to have hot pot as soon as I get home. Han Fei hurriedly shouted, President, don't rush to eat. I have fresh ingredients here. Zhang Xuanyu said, Can you two be more ambitious? Xiao Xiaochan said, I miss my treehouse so much. It's not comfortable to drift on the sea and sleep in the open. That's not right. We often eat hot pot on the sea. Accompanied by their chatter, the cold campus of the Thug Academy seemed to have a little more vitality. Of course, it was only a little more. The five of them ran to the table with joy, said hello to Old Bai and Xiao Zhan, and began to work. Lu Rinquang asked, Han Fei, where's the barbecue grill? It's here. You can roast it yourself. Han Fei took out the barbecue grill and threw it on the ground. At the same time, he took out a bunch of things from his sea-swallowing seashell, including kelp, jellyfish, squid tentacles, clams, conches, clams, crayfish, starfish, pearlfish. In the end, he even took out a plate ray and a spider crab. Xiao Xiaochan's eyes widened. Han Fei, when did you catch plate rays and spider crabs? He was beaten to death on the roadside. I picked him up casually. Seeing this scene, Old Bai and Xiao Zhan were dumbfounded. Old Bai said helplessly, Are you going to gain experience or to look for ingredients? Xiao Zhan sweated. Han Fei, did you stuff all these things into your sea-swallowing seashell? Han Fei scratched his head. There's nothing else to stuff. He could at least use his sea-swallowing seashell. Oh, I also have hundreds of giant squid tentacles. Teacher Wenrin, you also has a lot of sea urchins and the like. Old Bai and Xiao Zhan looked at Wenrin and thought to themselves, How did you become a picker too? Wenrin said gloomily, Hee, my sea-swallowing seashell is full. The hot pot was boiling, and a group of teachers and students sat around the table. Old Bai only ate, and Xiao Zhan was asking about his experience in the level 2 fishery. After a while, Xiao Zhan asked, So, you can all perceive with your spiritual senses now. Luo Xiaobai said yes, but my and Lu Rinquang's perception range is still very small. Han Fei and Xiao Chan's range is the largest. Xiao Zhan's heart was moved. Originally, they just wanted to try, but they didn't expect the 5 children to really succeed. Xiao Zhan asked, Is the rock-holding turtle really as amazing as you say? It can even strengthen your spiritual perception? Luo Xiaobai said yes. Han Fei was the first to discover it. After we tried it, we were very sure. Xiao Zhan took a deep breath. That picture, you must remember. This is a big opportunity that others don't have. Luo Xiaobai was mainly answering the questions. Han Fei and the others were eating. From capturing exotic creatures to the fire cloud cave, to the piercing electricity zone, the stone forest, and the deep-sea jungle, it seemed that everything sounded very strange. When Luo Xiaobai said that she saw the little treeman in the deep-sea jungle, Old Bai, who had been silent, suddenly said, Don't go to the deep-sea jungle again. Han Fei, who was eating and drinking, suddenly heard Old Bai's words and immediately asked, President, is it because of the little treeman? Old Bai snorted. Don't ask about things you shouldn't know. Anyway, you got what you should get. There's nothing else you need in the deep-sea jungle. Han Fei continued to ask, President, is there any secret hidden in the deep-sea jungle? Everyone pricked up their ears, only to hear Old Bai snort. Bullsh *T. In the infinite ocean, there are countless jungles more dangerous than the deep-sea jungle. What's a 300-kilometer jungle? Have you ever seen a 100,000-kilometer deep-sea jungle? 100,000-kilometer deep-sea jungle. Han Fei and the others exclaimed. All the ordinary fisheries and level 1 and level 2 fisheries in the Blue Sea town added up were less than 100,000 kilometer. Old man, are you kidding us? Old Bai glanced at them contemptuously. Is a 100,000-kilometer deep-sea jungle very big? Let me tell you, in many unknown places, not to mention a 100,000-kilometer deep-sea jungle, there are even a 1,000,000-kilometer deep-sea jungle. Any creature that walks out of that place can kill you at will. Don't think that you are very strong every day. You're just a group of small fry. It was not that Han Fei and the others didn't believe it, but these things seemed a little too far away from them. Han Fei couldn't help asking, President, then how big is our world? A random deep-sea jungle is 1,000,000 kilometers long? Is there 1,000,000-kilometer coral reef or something? Old Bai sneered. How big is this world? No one in the entire thousand-star city knows. Even the high and mighty city Lord doesn't know. You ask me? Han Fei muttered to himself. It seems that this planet is really super infinite. Old Bai picked up a piece of squid tentacle and put it into his mouth. I could tell you some rumors. Do you know the boundless sea realm that you talk about every day? That part of the sea really existed. According to the ancient records, the unknown lands outside of the unknown lands already spanned hundreds of millions of miles in the unknown lands. Those who went in basically never came back. Han Fei was stunned. Doesn't the infinite ocean describe this boundless ocean? Old Bai shook his head. That's a sea area. Perhaps there was another boundless sea realm at the other end of the boundless sea realm. When you grow up and visit the unknown place, perhaps you'll have a deeper understanding of it. Han Fei thought, this is really a boundless ocean. For some reason, he felt a little excited. Han Fei asked, Sir, what is the unknown place? We've been to sand. Can I go to the unknown place in the level 3 fishery? Old Bai was not afraid of scaring them. So he said casually, yes, but the premise is that you have to learn from S3. He survived in the level 3 fishery. Don't be fooled by the fact that you've swept across the level 2 fishery. Why don't you try going to the level 3 fishery? Why don't you ask Xiao Zhan and Wenrinyu if they can do it? Everyone immediately turned to look at the two. Xiao Zhan said with a silly face, San. The level 3 fishery was full of dangers. There were thousands of dangerous secret realms, and many places were sealed. Even hanging fishers and hidden fishers may die, not to mention dangling fishers. Han Fei and the others were shocked. He had to go to the level 3 fishery by teleportation array. It turned out that that place was not on the same level as the level 2 fishery at all. At this time, Han Fei remembered what Ren Tianfei said. The level 3 fishery left him chance. This guy wouldn't play himself to death, right? Wenrinyu said indifferently, don't think about all that nonsense. Go back and cultivate after you've eaten and properly digest what you've experienced in these 2 months. Except for Han Fei, who is responsible for cooking every day, the others don't come out until they advance. Han Fei, Cell Phone Site. Chapter 2:26. After dinner, only Xia Xiaochan climbed into her treehouse to sleep. In her words, sleeping was also cultivation, which was much more comfortable than in the cave. His words caused the others to agree with him. So, except for Han Fei, the others all climbed into the treehouse, saying that they were going to meditate on those scenes. Han Fei didn't feel anything about the treehouse now, so he ran into the cave alone. His spiritual perception range was big enough at present. So, what he needed to do now was not this. Han Fei took out the wood spiritual fruit, illuminating the dark cave a little. It doesn't smell fragrant, but it can shine. Let's eat it first. This was not the first time he had eaten a spiritual fruit. Han Fei swallowed the wood spiritual fruit in a few bites like eating a peach. Spiritual energy scattered to his limbs and bones, and what couldn't be absorbed by his body was all stored. The main reason was that Han Fei felt a coolness on the top of his head. Faintly, he felt that his mind had become faster. He felt that he had never been so sober, and his mind was extremely fast. This feeling lasted for more than an hour before it slowly dissipated. When Han Fei opened his eyes again, he felt that his vision was extremely clear, and his hearing and smell were all improved. This feeling was very subtle. His 5 senses had been strengthened, which was definitely helpful in fighting. He also tried to communicate with the weeds outside the cave, but unfortunately, it didn't work at all. He thought to himself that this should be a talent problem. He was not a manipulator, so it was normal that he couldn't feel it. After all, spiritual plant affinity, such a mysterious thing, also varied from person to person. But the remaining round fruit pit was a little cool. Han Fei thought for a while, pierced it with blood spider silk, and hung it around his neck. This thing could calm him down, so he'd better wear it for a long time. Of course, eating the spiritual fruit didn't help Han Fei in any substantial way. After all, he had reached the strength of an intermediate great fishing master and was no longer a fisher. Should I forge a fishing rod? Han Fei was about to take out the dragon head, but on second thought, he had the materials, but he lacked fishing line. At this moment, Han Fei thought of the tendon of the ghost serpent. That thing should be able to be used as a fishing line, right? Although it was just a python tendon, it was much better than blood spider silk. With this in mind, Han Fei decided to get the snake tendon from Wenrinyu in a few days. After sorting out his thoughts, he began to practice the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. He practiced for a day and a night. Wenrinyu shouted from outside, "Han Fei, time to cook." Han Fei was stunned. "I'm cultivating." Wenrinyu said, "After that, come out and cook. Others are in seclusion, but you are not." A moment later, Han Fei walked out and looked at Wenrinyu bitterly. "Master, it's not good to interrupt other people's training, is it?" Wenrinyu chuckled. "You cultivate? You repeatedly tempered your body, so you could stop at any time, but they couldn't. I said you'll have to cook for a month, so you'll have to do it." Han Fei was speechless. "Master, but I also want to break through." Wenrinyu chuckled. "Didn't you just break through? Why are you breaking through again?" Han Fei squinted at her. "Master, it's been more than a month since I made the breakthrough. I've experienced a lot during this period of time. Isn't it normal for me to have a breakthrough?" Wenrinyu narrowed her eyes. "Did you become an advanced great fishing master from an intermediate great fishing master in just over a month?" Han Fei quickly waved his hand. "Okay, it was cooking. Then let's do it. Oh, by the way, Master, can you give me the tendon of the ghost serpent?" "Huh? You need it?" Han Fei shrugged. "The quality of the fishing rod is too poor. I want to get a good one." "That's true. The tendon of the ghost serpent is not bad. I can give it to you." When it came to business, Wenrinyu certainly didn't refuse. After all, this tendon was of no use to her. Thinking about it, Wenrinyu said, "I can give you the tendon, but I'm going to give the gallbladder to Xiaochan. That thing is not very effective for you. Also, the horn can be used to forge weapons for Luren Quang. Do you have a problem with that?" "Of course not. Why would I have a problem with that?" Han Fei was disdainful. How useful could a snake gallbladder be? Could the horn be better than the blue sea wandering dragon bone? After dinner, Han Fei went to the school library. There were not only the memorial tablets of former students in the library, it also had an outer layer. There were also cultivation techniques in the library, and, of course, some ancient books were more useful. He needed to find an ancient book about spiritual weapons. After picking up 3 or 4 books, Han Fei ran back to the cave. Instead of rushing to cultivate, he began to study the knowledge of spiritual weapons. So spirit tools had their own spirits, and they actually needed to seal a living being in the spirit tool? No wonder my blue sea wandering dragon daggers are only extremely sharp, but have no spirituality. It turns out that there are no creatures sealed in them. Oh, do spiritual weapons need to be nourished with my own spiritual energy or essence blood? Han Fei was speechless. If he made 10,000 spiritual weapons, he would have to drip a drop of blood on each one. Forget it. I'll just nourish them with spiritual energy. I'll throw them all into Forge the Universe. Anyway, there is still a lot of spiritual spring. After reading this, Han Fei realized why the blue sea wandering dragon daggers were only low-quality spiritual weapons. It seemed that he still had a long way to go on the road of spiritual weapons. When he could make 10,000 spiritual weapons, seal all of them with demonic fish, and nourish them with spiritual energy for a few years, he would be unimaginably powerful. After reading this, Han Fei stopped caring about spiritual energy. Now, with his cultivation of the million knife art, he could only control 10 at most, and he still had as many as 40 in his inventory. It was too early to think about sealing spirits. As for the fishing rod, Han Fei carefully sealed the cave and engraved the words, "Today, I have a sudden inspiration. I'll cultivate in seclusion for 3 days. Do not disturb me." Ignoring Wenrinyu's reaction when she saw this line of words, Han Fei took out the demon purification pot in the cave. Hey, the blue sea wandering dragon rod sounds awesome. Han Fei let the demon purification pot suck the dragon head in and through the snake tendon in. Then he thought, the blue sea wandering dragon bone is so cold. Will it freeze my hand? Should I throw some fire element crystals in? When Han Fei was in the fire cloud cave, he dug hundreds of fire element crystals. Should he use the strongest fire element crystals? Those were too strong and too hot. If they completely suppressed the characteristics of the blue sea wandering dragon bone, it would be a loss. However, the fire element crystals embedded in the wall were not powerful enough. It shouldn't be a problem if he put more of them in. On second thought, Han Fei looked down at the wood spiritual fruit core hanging on his chest and thought to himself, I've been using spiritual energy to cultivate. This thing doesn't seem to be of much use. But the fishing rod is what I carry with me every day. Should I throw it in too? Han Fei wanted to do something big this time. Either he didn't refine it, or he would refine a good one. Just imagine, with a spiritual fishing rod, he would be able to upgrade from mortal level, high quality to a magic weapon. Smell. Han Fei calmed his mind and stared at Forge the Universe, only to see that the spiritual spring in Forge the Universe, which had long been submerged by the spiritual spring, had dropped a small section, at least 3 centimeters deep. Han Fei took a slight breath. Good heavens, 3 cubic meters of spiritual spring had been lost. How much spiritual energy would it take? He didn't even dare to think about forging a spiritual weapon before. After more than 10 minutes, a fishing rod that was blue, white, and purple in color appeared. Blue Sea Wandering Dragon Rod forged with the Blue Sea Wandering Dragon Bone, fire element crystals, ghost serpent tendons, and with spiritual fruit core. The rod is cold and can calm the angler when fishing. Creatures below the exotic class can't distinguish it. Mid-quality spiritual weapon none note. Due to the limited forging materials, a lot of spiritual energy was consumed, and it was barely cast into a mid-quality spiritual weapon. Han Fei was very satisfied. He immediately dripped a drop of blood on the fishing rod and began to refine it. After a while, the fishing rod was put into his body. Although he didn't know where it went, it was much more convenient than carrying a fishing rod on his back. Unsatisfied, Han Fei wondered if he should take the opportunity to forge another bow. After all, the War Soul art was also one of his trump cards. However, this idea flashed by and was temporarily put aside. I still need a bowstring. It seems that I have to find a chance to go to the Linglong Tower to see if there is any good bowstring. Cell phone site. Chapter 227. Half a month later, Xia Xiaochan came out of seclusion, and the whole school was unusually quiet. Not far from the treehouse, the barbecue grill and the fire boiler were still there. In addition to these, there was even a shed here with the words "the best kitchen in the world" written on it. Xia Xiaochan was surprised. There were more pots and pans, tables and chairs, and knives and forks in the kitchen. At this moment, Xiao Zhan was cleaning the jellyfish, cutting them into threads. Xia Xiaochan leaned over. Teacher, isn't Han Fei cooking? Why did you do it? Xiao Zhan smiled. He has been running to the plantation recently. I don't know what he's doing. Han Fei's punishment period hadn't passed yet, so he didn't go into seclusion at all. After building a solid foundation and knowing that there was no more room for improvement, he ran out. Because he had nothing to do, he made vinegar in the school, built a kitchen, and then ran to the plantation. Compared with the plantation in the Heavenly Water Village, the plantation of the Thug Academy was much richer. Many of the spiritual plants that Han Fei didn't know, he knew them all. And although he didn't find rice, he found wheat. For this, he couldn't help but be excited. Wheat, I didn't find it earlier. He had been to the school plantation before, but the plantation was too big, and he only dug seasonings before. Now, he found wheat in a corner. Just when Xia Xiaochan was about to go to the plantation to see what Han Fei was doing, she heard Han Fei's cry from a distance. Teacher, President, we have delicious food tonight. If it's really delicious, it'll definitely eat your tongues. Before he arrived, his voice came. After a while, Xia Xiaochan saw Han Fei running over carrying a large fish skin bag. Xia Xiaochan, are you out? Xiao Xiaochan didn't answer, but stared curiously at the bag behind Han Fei. What are you carrying? Xiaozhan also looked curious. Is there a new dish? Old Bai came out of nowhere. Boy, I heard you yelling from a distance. When can you stop yelling like this? Han Fei chuckled. President, let me tell you, it's a waste to let you take care of such a large plantation. You don't even know how many treasures there are in it. Old Bai wondered, is that so? Are there treasures inside? Spiritual fruits and spiritual plants are not the only treasures in this world. Every plant has its own significance. Tonight, I'll show you guys what dumplings taste like. Dumplings? Old Bai, Xiao Xiaochan, and the others were all confused. They had never heard of it before. Han Fei put down the bag and opened it, only to see the white flour. Old Bai exclaimed in surprise and leaned forward. Do we have this in our plantation? No, I crushed the wheat and made it. Wheat? Han Fei took out a piece of wheat and said, this is it. Xiao Zhan was speechless. Isn't this weed? Han Fei despised him. Nonsense. How could this be weeds? Even the plantation in the Heavenly Water Village doesn't have it. What is it? What is it? Is it delicious? Lu Renquang jumped down from the treehouse with a thud. Han Fei was taken aback. Aren't you cultivating? Lu Renquang scoffed. You roared so loudly. How could I not hear you? Han Fei looked up at the other tree houses. So, did you really just cultivate in the tree houses? Didn't you go to the cave? Lu Renquang shrugged. No, I've been meditating for the past half-month. I found it very useful. Han Fei asked. So, you can perceive that we are cooking with your eyes closed. Huh? Old Bai and Xiao Zhan looked at Han Fei at the same time. Can you perceive the surroundings directly? Han Fei found that he seemed to have spilled the beans, so he could only bite the bullet and say, Hey, I can perceive a little bit. Xiao Xiaochan exclaimed and said, You can feel it too? I thought there was something wrong with my perception. Old Bai and Xiao Zhan looked at Xiao Xiaochan again. You can also perceive it? Xiao Xiaochan nodded. Yes, I can only perceive about 2 meters away. Lu Renquang was stunned. Really? I didn't perceive it. Phew. Old Bai and Xiao Zhan breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. They were really shocked just now. They thought they could all perceive it. Old Bai nodded. That's something that only dangling fishers can do. Even if you become a peak-level dangling fisher, your perception range can't exceed 100 meters. You may have touched it a little bit in advance. Han Fei chuckled and changed the topic. It shows that we are geniuses. What are we talking about? Dumplings, yes, dumplings are good. Dumplings are delicious. Don't fight for them later. Zhang Xuanyu said lazily. That's too much. I was going to break through to an intermediate fishing master in one go, but you were cooking here. Han Fei looked up. You came out too? Don't make it sound like I didn't do it every day. Everyone was here. Luo Xiaobai and Wenrin Yu also came out. Han Fei kneaded the dough and made a fist, which stunned everyone. Lu Renquang watched carefully from the side. What is this? It was like powder just now. How did it turn into a ball? Han Fei said, It's sticky. This is called kneading dough. Hey, Xia Xiaochan, have you peeled the fresh shrimps? Zhang Xuanyu, cut the cabbage into pieces for me. Quang Quang, do you have nothing to do? If you have nothing to do, go peel the garlic and mince the red pepper. Lu Renquang glanced at Luo Xiaobai. I want to learn this skill. I don't have time. Han Fei chuckled. Okay, then you have to learn it. From now on, you will make all the dumplings. Lu Renquang rubbed his hands and said, Okay, as long as I know it, I can do it. When Han Fei began to roll the dumpling wrappers, stir the dumpling fillings, and finally made the dumplings with his hands, Lu Renquang was stunned. So he made a few dumplings with his hands. His strength directly crushed the dumplings and was kicked far away by Han Fei. In the end, Luo Xiaobai personally helped Han Fei make the dumplings. At night, 8 people sat around the table. Han Fei said, Dip it in vinegar. Dumplings must be dipped in vinegar. With some chili in the vinegar, it's delicious. Old Bai nodded. Let me try. When Old Bai took the first bite, he almost raised his eyebrows. When he bit through the thin skin, the shrimp juice flowed, and especially the tenderness of the cabbage, it was very chewy. As soon as he bit down, the fragrance, with a hint of sourness and spiciness, almost made his tongue fall off. Lu Kwang took the first bite and exclaimed, I'm in love with it. It's boring to eat hot pot often. In the future, let's eat dumplings, which are even more delicious than hot pot. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xuanyu was not as aggressive as Lu Kwang. When eating, he could still maintain a handsome posture. However, because he didn't talk much when eating, he ate quickly. Xiao Xiaochan looked at Han Fei curiously. Luo Xiaobai seemed to like dumplings more than hot pot, so she didn't say a word. When Rinyu complained, Brat, why didn't you make these dumplings earlier? We've been eating hot pot for half a year. Han Fei said helplessly, but I didn't know there could be wheat here. I haven't even explored the plantation yet. When Rinyu snorted and turned to look at Xiao Zhan. This guy ate one dumpling at a time. In the blink of an eye, a plate of dumplings was stuffed into his stomach. She patted him and said, Eat slowly. You're a bottomless pit. If you eat all the dumplings, we won't have anything to eat. Xiao Zhan was speechless. It was such a big pot, and I only ate a few dozen. How could I eat all of them? Han Fei had a good time. He didn't expect that he could eat dumplings again after a lifetime. He couldn't explain the taste, but he felt very satisfied. After the big pot of dumplings was finished by the 8 of them, Old Bai said leisurely, Not bad. You can make more in the future. However, you have been in school for a long time, so I'll give you half a month vacation. Next month, it would be the recruitment season. Before that, you must all come back, understand? Everyone was taken aback, and then Zhang Xuanyu asked, Is it a vacation? Old Bai smiled. Why don't you want to go? Zhang Xuanyu quickly shook his head. No, we need a few days off. It just so happens that I have something to do too. I have to leave for a while. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Okay, I'm fine. I'll stay in school to cultivate. Lu Kwang looked around. Fei Fei, are you leaving? Han Fei thought for a moment. Of course. Lu Kwang said helplessly. Then I'll go too. If you don't, I'll stay in school. Han Fei was helpless. What does it have to do with me, whether you leave or not? Lu Kwang said, If I stay, I can learn cooking from you. Han Fei said disdainfully, Go away. I have to go back to the Heavenly Water Village. I haven't been back for a long time. I want to go back and take a look at my little shabby house. At the same time,